Good morning. You're watching the unedited version of Sunday Morning Linux Review. To watch the final version of our show, please go to smlr.us. Thanks.
The Sunday Morning Linux Review with Mary Tomich, Tom Lawrence, and Tony Bemis as the beeper.
All right. And this is episode 158, right?
That's right. Cake for breakfast.
Cake for breakfast.
Cake for breakfast.
And the reason why we're saying that is because we just had cake for breakfast because today's my birthday. And I
That's
brought
right.
the cake. So
Yeah. Thank you, Mary.
I'm
Yeah.
still waiting for the
You
card, though,
can't-
Tony.
You can't rely on two guys trying to remember to bring you cake.
I wasn't gonna say that, but now that you mention it, yeah, that's right. No, I'm kidding on that. No, I was more than happy to bring the cake, and I'm not taking the rest of it home, so the kids can have it, or you can have it,
They'll appreciate
or you
it.
guys can have another one now.
I need to stop eating cake. It's really good though.
So
What
we'll
do you
be
mean
on
stop
a.
eating cake?
We're gonna do the entire show on
now.
a sugar high.
Just for now.
Yeah. It takes a lot of work to keep this physique up.
Yes. A lot of cake. Working on the dad bod.
That's right.
All right.
And yeah, speaking about forgetting birthdays and stuff, my wife's birthday was a week and a half ago, and I forgot to get her a card. And
So
I was
I've
in the
given
doghouse
Tony
for
a
few
very
days.
helpful hint to not forget it in the future, and that's that you buy 3 cards next time you go to get a card, and then Tony, you added a little suggestion to that for yourself to.
Yeah, well, actually, Tom started
Or
with this
Tom- yeah.
suggestion, and I kind of picked up on it. But to in the event for her birthday or whatever event that it's going to happen, you put where the card is actually at, like
You
stored at.
pre-buy
Like,
all the cards.
Yeah.
And then put the reminders where you put the cards in your calendar events.
yeah,
Like
yeah, because that's my problems where I'll buy things ahead of time and then forget where I put them.
well, you're not the only one who does that, so don't feel too bad. But I think that should solve your birthday problem,
Yeah, definitely
and
will.
and get back in your wife's good graces. You're
Yeah.
probably already back there though.
For us, birthdays are popular in September because my daughter's birthday is this weekend too, this upcoming weekend.
Oh,
So she's looking forward to having a little bit of a birthday party.
cool.
So yeah,
Yeah, this right now, right? This is my birthday party, and you guys are at my birthday party. So
well, happy birthday again,
yeah,
Mary.
thanks for
Happy
hosting it,
birthday.
Tony.
Yeah.
All right, well, we probably better move on, and what do we
Yeah.
got coming up now?
Well, real quick, we're gonna do a little bit of banter, like talk about
Oh,
this.
just catch up.
Yeah,
real
the reason that we're saying this back and forth is because this is the first episode of SMLR 2.0.
Yes.
Mhm.
2.0.
Yeah, which it's our new format with Tom here, and so the new format is we're going to do half the show. We're going to record
we have
the
to look it
entire
up.
show.
What are we
yeah,
doing? No.
yeah, we have to look it up. What's the order again? But we're going to do the entire show. And then we're
gonna
going to
record it,
release
yep.
it in 2 halves. So one half will be this week, and then the second half will be next week.
Hmm.
So if you saw on the live stream, it's called episode 149 or 148/149 is because we're recording both episodes.
But why was it 148 rather than 158? I saw that. I
Oh.
didn't know.
Because I typed it wrong. Oh no.
Well, anyway, we'll get that fixed for you.
We'll figure out what show we're on.
Yeah.
Are
after
you
the show.
sure?
Yes, you did.
Your email was
You
149.
when I went into SMLR's G Plus page, it had 148 and 149,
Yeah.
and I thought, wow, I thought we were in the 150s. And then I looked,
Yeah.
I thought, well, Tony maybe we're just doing a different episode counting system.
Lack of sleep. That's what I'm gonna blame
Yeah,
it
that's
on.
probably what it was.
Let me update my show notes.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
report.
I've got to update the website.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I say lack of sleep because I've been up late. I've gotten about 4 hours of sleep every night this week. Because I've got a couple computers I'm working on for friends, and then I started classes this week. So I'm doing classwork at night, and it's just been I've
Hectic.
been up to 1 a.m. and then getting up at 5 a.m. and
Wow. Going to work.
yeah,
I hope your friends are paying you good money to work on their computers.
I'm starting to doubt that whether it's worth it or not anymore. But it's nice to have a little bit of side cash. So
Yeah.
um,
All right. So, well,
so,
it
yeah,
sounds like you've been busy.
yeah. My new classes at EMU. I'm taking my master's in IA, Information Assurance, and one class is enterprise security. So that's interesting. It's kind of like the prequel or like the basics for the CISSP certification,
Hmm.
um, which I can't remember what the entire uh,
I'm sure you'll learn it
thing
before you get your
means.
degree.
Right. Um, and then my second class is offensive security and countermeasures, which
And
is
that's not
really
fumbling the
interesting.
football. No.
No.
All
um,
right.
but what's cool is the first class, our
Mm.
first lab, was setting up a Windows 7 VM and a Kali Linux VM and having them, making sure that we can network them together and ping. And then I'm sure the next class will be something with running exploits or something. So
Hmm.
so
Doing that in VMware, I
in
presume.
VMware,
Yeah.
yep, on our own PC. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
yeah, so it's constraint and for learning,
Hmm.
So it's cool. I'm excited about this class.
Yeah. Sounds exciting.
Yeah. So it's been almost 3 weeks, I think, since we've seen each other.
Yeah.
What's going on with you, Mary?
Well, I got my. I ordered. I listen to the BSD Now podcast religiously, and I ordered my
Scoot over a little
BSD.
bit so the camera can
Oh
see it.
yeah, I'll
Yep.
do it over here. Yeah, there we go. I ordered my T-shirt and it came yesterday, and it's got the usual BSD, so it's got them all in a lineup, which is kind of cool. And then on the back, it's got the name of the BSD Now
Yep.
podcast.
I like it.
Ah,
So yeah, so it's kind of exciting. What else I did? I've been having not problems, but I've been working on my laptop because I decided, I'm just going to install FreeBSD directly and just see if I can get it running. So I had no problem installing FreeBSD itself, and of course, like I think Slackware and maybe Arch, when you install the base system, you don't have X, so you've got to then install X, and you've got to configure and then install your desktop and all of that. So I kind of went through all those processes, and I almost got the whole thing running. I got the
Almost.
graphical login, and I think it really needed some setting change because it seemed to me every time I changed a setting, I got a little bit further along. And then finally, I thought, why am I doing this? I'm just going to throw PCBSD back on, and I installed it last night, and it's working. It's working fine. It's the latest version. Couple issues I had before, I think before, just are not plaguing me now, so it's looking good.
It's good.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I did. Um,
Except
all
you didn't
right.
have your chat client.
oh yeah, no, I didn't have that installed, so yeah, so now I'm accessing it via the website, which actually works pretty well.
Yeah, I was surprised. It used to be a Java. You'd have to have Java installed, but
Yeah,
now it's what, HTML5.
Probably.
It works really
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
yep, tastes great, less filling.
Mm.
So anyway, but those are some of the stuff, some of the things I did. I ended up installing the long-term support version of Kubuntu on a laptop for one of my friends and neighbors, whose desktop apparently went kaput. Now she uses Windows, so I had to kind of show her, okay, here's how this works and stuff. So we'll see how it goes. I guess for her, it's probably better than having no computer.
Yes.
But I'm just hoping that it works well for her.
It's not too much. And when they get the browser open, that's mostly what people want to do.
Yeah,
The average
browse,
consumer
email.
now, as long as they get the browser open, anything else is
They're good to
irrelevant.
Right.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
was kind of my impression. So, all right.
All right. So Tom.
I finally rebuilt my virtualization system that runs my business, which I built it on PHP VirtualBox version 5. So it's
Mhm.
VirtualBox version 5, and I used the web interface. And while I was doing it, did the overview, put a blog together, and put a tutorial video together of
And,
Wow.
setting it up, how it works, how the system goes, and recorded it all.
and
so
then solve world conflicts.
solve world conflicts. Yeah, I
You
was
sound like you're doing a lot of stuff.
a lot of stuff. It's nice. A lot of my friend, he's used to using VMware and things like that in a corporate environment where he works, and he was just blown away with how far along the project is. He says, "Wow, this looks enterprise to me." I'm like, "It works. It's solid. It has all the bells and whistles.
Mhm.
It's a headless server sitting in a rack, just like your VMware. It has full control. You can move, manage, export, import, snapshot, everything right from a web interface. Of course, you have command line access as well, which is a bonus because I have it all set up for scripts for doing backups and things like that on my servers. But it's fast, and SSDs are really cheap, so I put it on rated SSDs. So,
Wow, nice.
why not? You know,
Yeah,
Sure.
they're all just running a series of Linux boxes, so none of them are very big. My point of sale system has a 13 gig footprint with everything, including the database and all 5,000 clients in it. So
wow.
Which version are you running, or which distro are you running on there?
Debian,
Okay.
yeah, everything's running on
Right.
Debian.
Okay.
So, but the whole thing's done, and I got the tutorial done, which is important. I still haven't got the tutorial for Caden Live done. That's on my next to-do list.
Right.
Mhm.
Teach
So-
people some editing.
Where do you have the tutorial at?
It's on my website, lawrencesystems.com. Go to blogs. The blog was posted on September 1st.
All right.
There's
Nice.
several blogs after it. You can just skip those unless you're interested in social media. So we also launched a new social media blog showing how we do our marketing and things like that. Mostly my wife's doing all that.
Okay.
All
Well, I
right.
guess that was a good catch up. Doing
Yeah,
a lot of
thank
things
you.
there, Tom.
Gotta keep busy.
Yeah, that's that's what I say.
Keep moving.
But that's
Right.
it's still just in the verbal stage for me. All right.
All right. So with our new format, it's going to go listener feedback. Then we're going to talk about distros, some tech news, and then music. And that'll be for our first session or what do you episode?
Yep,
First
for our-
episode.
Yep. For this week, and then for next week's episode, which we'll record today, we'll go into more in depth with some other things. Ethical hacking, I think we're talking about.
Yeah, we're going to talk about ethical hacking on the next one, and but that'll be the section where we're going to do like reviews or tips and tricks or stuff like that.
Oh, the less time sensitive discussion.
Exactly. Yep. And with this episode, we're also releasing a new logo, which Tom made up. It's very nice. Thank you.
As you might have imagined or might have surmised, Tom is a talented guy.
He is. And then we have new sound bites. As you heard, our intro is updated intro, which
That's right.
is
And Tony Bemis as the beaver.
right.
Tony Bemis as the beaver.
So a good friend of the show, John Miller made it up for us.
Yeah, thanks again, John.
I don't do voice.
Right.
Right.
And he also did an outro music for us, or outro, not what do you call it?
Yeah,
The end of
outro.
the show.
Yeah,
Outro.
closing.
Yeah, outro closing
music.
sound. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Closing sound bite.
right.
How does that sound?
Yep, and the rest of our sound bites in between. We got new sound bites for our new sections, which is done by Mike Tanner. He is he's actually my uncle, or uncle-in-law. So he gratefully or graciously, I get
There you go, yeah.
graciously.
You gratefully thank
yeah, I
him.
gratefully, yeah. He recorded us
Yeah.
new ones, so we're playing those today also.
So
yeah.
yeah, we've kind of polished the show up.
Yeah,
So.
yep, doing a little bit of some polish and trying to revamp.
Yeah.
Next
So
up,
let us know what you think.
I'll be updating the website soon too.
Mhm.
Now that I've got all the login stuff sorted out.
Yeah, yep,
Yeah. So it's great.
yeah, great. So our next up, we have listener feedback.
Yep, from recent shows.
That's right. Oh, and we have a soundbite for that, I think.
Where's the button?
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
We want to hear from you. Call 734-258-7009 or email show@smlr.us with your feedback and questions.
All right.
All right.
Our polished show continues.
That's right.
What do we got?
So our first one was actually the day of our last show. Was on the 27th, and Scott emailed us about he found a video about System D and Debian. And Mary, you said you got to watch that video. Didn't
Actually,
you?
wasn't it the 23rd August?
The show.
Yeah. Sunday.
It was our last show was actually in September.
Was it?
Yeah. Today's the 13th, so it couldn't have been August 27th. Oh no, it was. This is September. What am I saying?
Let's say,
I
I'm
don't
going
know.
crazy.
You're on the Remulan calendar.
I
You know,
guess so.
come back to Earth. No. Yeah, because we were
Oh,
supposed
you're
to.
right.
We last weekend was a holiday weekend, and we
Yes.
just due to just due to calendar schedulings and conflicts, we opted not to record last weekend.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
all
don't worry,
right.
Tony. Just stay
Anyway.
with us. We know you have not
So
had
a few
much
days
sleep.
after the last show. All right.
Yeah, so a few days after.
Yeah. So yeah, Scott emailed us about the System D video. Did you get to? You
I
said
did.
Mary?
I did, and I found it. I found it pretty interesting. And yeah, it's kind of funny. I know there's still those two camps. But I ended up. Oh, by the way, too, I think in the last episode I talked about my install that I had problems with it. And I thought maybe I didn't think it was a System D issue per se, but I thought that System D was kind of hanging because of something else that was not completing. And what I ended up doing, I ended up reinstalling my whole Kubuntu workstation. I
Mm.
went up to 15.04 with Plasma 5.3, and it needs some work because and maybe it's some acceleration thing or some graphics resolution. But when I go out to the dashboard where I've got maybe multiple Libra writer instances open, and you can go and then select one, they flicker. So I select one and then it's fine. And sometimes the window, the window frame is not, it goes away. There's just various little things going on with it.
Mm.
And I know that the next release of Kubuntu is going to have, I think, .4. Yeah, it's going to have the next point release available. So we'll
Ah.
see if it fixes it.
All right.
yeah, I've heard it's a lot buggy. That's one of the reasons I tried it when I was reloading my system last time.
Yeah.
Even the bugs I had just getting the system set up made me switch back to, not to the Unity interface. So
Yeah.
it just works.
It-
And working is very important because it's my work computer. I have a
Precisely.
lot of work to do. As much as I play with all my other ones, but it's like, no, I have to have something that I hit the button, it comes on, I go to edit, it edits.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I have my Windows computer for.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm
Hey.
kidding.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right.
okay,
our
so I'm
next-
with our listener feedback.
Yeah. And
So thanks for writing in, Scott.
our next one was from Frank Bell, and he emailed
Yeah.
about GIMP tutorials. And I think, yeah, I mean, it was a link. It's blog.meetthegimp.org,
Mhm.
and it's just a big, a list of tutorials and stuff that for using GIMP.
Which I think can be really helpful because when you first open it, it's like any program that has a lot of functionality. It looks very busy. It may not be as intuitive for some people, but once you take a look at a tutorial, run through it, it's nice because then you've got that little piece you understand, and then that allows you to do maybe some basic photo editing, and then as time goes on, you can end up creating really cool logos like
Yeah.
Tom did. So
Yeah, I gotta put some more commitment into the GIMP. I have a lot of problems, and this is what I gotta really focus on is whether or not I can do the layers in the same methods. The way I fill in a layer, the way I add either an overfill to it or a drop shadow or a stroke or outline. Those are features that I know for a long time GIMP was missing. And I'm not sure if they're all back in there. And because those are just part of when you design a logo, I need to grab this and just fill this real quick. It's an easier way to do it than the way GIMP's like, oh, you have to use this tool and this tool. It's They compound a lot of tools to accomplish the same goal. And I don't want that. I want to be able to just click something. And it makes a huge difference because if I spend a lot of time designing something, and I'm spending a lot of time fussing with something that should be automated in the year 2015, it turns me off to the product.
Yeah, well, that makes me think because GIMP is kind of a plug-in system. It has a plug-in system where a lot of those tools could be created in a plug-in or something. I wonder if they have been. So if anybody out there knows, is there like equivalent plugins of how Photoshop does things?
It does. I mean, it does have a layering. You've used GIMP layers, right?
Layers, yeah. It's the properties of each layer. That's the part that I get hung up on. It doesn't have you know what I should probably do is I can put together a series of screenshots going, show me how to do this. I can tell you how to do this in Photoshop in a few seconds, a couple of screenshots, and throw it out there and say, is there a way to do this in GIMP? Because if you can, awesome. I'll run with it.
I
and I'll take
created.
the time to learn it.
I went through. There was a list of steps to create a really glassy. It was like a button, and it had kind of a nickel
Yeah.
outline to it. It had a little drop shadow. It had a glassy surface, and it was just a series of layers to which different effects have been
Yeah.
applied. I mean, is that?
Yeah, that sounds like what I need. And
Uh-huh.
I've gone through some of them, and it was just too many steps. I'm like, that's one checkbox in Photoshop. This is a 8-minute tutorial on how to do something in Photoshop that you could do in 30 seconds with one check. And maybe
Right.
I'm just not looking for the right thing or
Mhm.
trying to figure it out. But I really would like to use it because it's one of the biggest reasons I ever launched Windows and VirtualBox is just to run Photoshop. So it would be
Mhm.
nice to just pop open GIMP, do it right inside of GIMP, and life is good.
Yeah.
So I would love to get there. That's my one crutch of closed source product that I use really is
Mhm.
Photoshop.
Right.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you need the best tool for the job. And
Yeah.
for you, it's right now it's Photoshop.
But I got rid of any Windows editing. I mean, Kden Live is actually better than any Windows editor I've used. So
Cool.
for editing video. So I've been really happy. That's definitely filled that niche. It's amazing that the video niche was filled before the Photoshop.
Yeah,
niche.
that is kind of
Right.
interesting because usually video it's a little more complex. Just
Yeah.
the functionality that you use to edit video.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Next up on our list, we have Brad Alexander emailed us, and he emailed, or the first thing he said that he ran across Privacy Badger also, and he wanted to say that Nixie Pixel, she's a YouTube
Yeah.
person. She had gone through and
Nixie Pixel.
reviewed.
Yes.
I
yeah.
love that.
And
Been
she's
around a
actually
while.
kind of good looking too. So
Yeah.
so it kind of makes it nice to to watch those videos. But
Oh,
yeah.
that's funny.
anyway, so she talks about Privacy Badger plus a couple other of the
Mhm.
privacy ad blocker kind of plugins. And then he also emailed to you, Mary,
Oh,
saying,
yeah.
asking about VBSDCon.
Yes, because I mentioned that in the Linux convention scene. I think in our last episode, and he had asked if I was going to be going to that, and unfortunately, no. Just because it's just not in my travel budget.
Yeah.
And I've got,
Where is it at?
I believe it was in Virginia,
Oh, okay.
outside DC.
Yeah.
So I'd love to go to one of the BSD cons. I mean, they've got BSD con, Asia BSD con. I did go to, and I think I spoke of this at our last episode. I did go to the BSD, the Livingston County BSD user group meetup. So
Oh,
I think
yeah.
their next meeting is next week, and I've got a class all week, so I'm going to try to get up there in the evening if I can. So
Yeah. Don't they call themselves like Livebug or something?
Livebug,
or-
yep.
Yeah. Yeah,
Livebug.
that's interesting.
I know, I
That's
thought it was
neat.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, so
All right.
thanks for writing in, Brad.
Yeah. Next up, we have Ian emailed us, or he did the contact form on the website, and he says how he enjoys the show and how we have no profanity, so he can listen anywhere. It's work friendly, kid friendly, and that was one of the big thing that we've
No one wants to fill
shot
up the
for a
swear
long
jar.
time. Right.
that our tip jar, the swear jar, is getting kind of cobwebby,
Yeah.
which is I think a good thing.
He also says he started with Ubuntu Warhog, and now
Oh.
uses Peppermint 6, which is also an interesting distro.
Yeah,
It's more
we'll be talking
like
about that in a
cloud-based.
little bit.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think Peppermint OS.
All right, yeah. And then, but he says the reason he emailed, he says getting back to the is that red notebook,
Mm-hmm.
and he says he's been using it for years, using his diary.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I was just using it this week to create this journal of, my financial markets activity, kind of a daily one.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he says that it's just a bunch of text files, and it's easily portable and reliable.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'll drop images in there, and I'll save the images in just this one file, and it just knows where to. Well, it knows where I point it to where I want it to save it, and then Red Notebook just drags those in there.
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says you can also export it as PDF or HTML.
Yeah,
or just plain text.
Yeah, I do the PDF version because once I'm done editing it on any given day, I then do an export, so it's kind of memorialized.
Yeah,
So
pretty cool.
One quick side note, because this is amusing and topical. There is a guy who put together, and he does it at each update of the Linux kernel. It's the Linux kernel swear count, and
Oh,
it shows our restraint for swearing. But as a community, there's
funny.
plenty of it, and they have all the different counts for word occurrences,
that's
profane
funny.
words that occur all throughout the Linux kernel. And for each update for the kernel, he reanalyzes and updates the graph.
oh, that's funny. That's funny. What's that blue line? It's kind of ratcheted up
Uh,
pretty high.
The blue line is the crap, CRAP.
Okay.
That one's becoming more common as we're seeing some of the other ones become less common, which is good. They're
Good.
swearing less, but there was in the tube series there was a lot of bad words.
Oh,
in
there were
it.
a couple of spikes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That
it's
green
funny.
one. What? Well, without. I don't know what.
That's the. We'll share this as a show note in case you
Yeah.
want to click
Yeah.
it.
You want to
It
see
won't
this?
be in there, so you can still listen. It's just
Yeah.
it's a wonderful graph
We'll
of
keep
the
this
swear
family
count.
friendly, but it is kind of a cool looking chart because you see a few spikes in there where
And this,
they must have been discussing something pretty
but this,
important, and people had
crap is the
strong.
most common swear word in there.
It's not
and,
even really a.
Not really.
swear- I mean,
Penguin is the second most common.
penguin.
Yeah, I don't know how that's a swear word, but
Oh,
a
it
feeling-
isn't. It is in the BSD community.
yes.
Just kidding.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's funny.
but it is funny. Good job.
All right. We also have an email from Julian. He said he emails about rooting the Samsung S3, and that was toward you, Mary, right?
Oh yes, yes, and Julian, I do appreciate that info, and I that Samsung is like my old phone, and placed it somewhere because it's so nice and thin. I don't know where it is. It's sitting someplace. It
Oh,
could be
no.
stuck in a chair or something.
Maybe it fell down between the seats of your car.
Yeah, hey, I'm running out there to look right now. But anyway, as soon as I find it, I'm gonna give that a try because it sounds it sounds like it's very doable. So anyway,
right.
but I have my regular my Kyocera mediocre phone,
Oh yeah, yeah.
so I have that. So.
He also mentioned about KDN Live, and how Tom raves about it.
Yeah,
And you replied, right?
yeah. I rave about it. He had some problems with it. One of them was crashing. Now, right away, I can tell you, undoubtedly, he's using one of the Debian-based distributions, and there's a few others that did this too. They chose to skip putting FFmpeg in there, and they switched to libdav.
Mhm.
File names are all the same, and
But
it's not stable. It crashes a lot.
okay,
So if you were using the 14x version of Ubuntu, and I forget which version is Debian, and I put it in the email,
Mhm.
but any of those, they relied on libdav for that version, have lots of crashing problems. And it's not just Kdenlive. There's actually a couple other editing tools I use that rely on those same libraries because they're the standard libraries for manipulating videos, and it just randomly stops, randomly crashes, which is what led to them switching back after version 15 in Ubuntu to FFmpeg natively. So they got rid of the fork and put it back in,
okay,
and all your problems go away. And it is weird. It's just random things. You're rendering, it just stops working, locks up, force quits, all kinds of random stuff. And you can do the same action again after you restart the program, and it works the second time. It's just buggy, really, really buggy. And I think the libdav project, because they use the same file names, it makes it really hard to replace. So
Oh,
you can't just go, I just want to add back FFmpeg. No, the system doesn't want you to because you're replacing the same file names over it, and then they have their own dependencies, and it was a mess. I got my system to work with it. It took a lot of mess with. That's one of the reasons I ended up just when I loaded 15, I formatted. I just said because I know how much files I have that are everywhere, and I don't want any of this to copy over to do an in-place upgrade. So I just formatted.
yeah.
I knew they used FFmpeg, and once I loaded it, no crashing, no errors. It worked really smooth.
Yeah.
And I
Alright.
sent them a list of links for some good tutorials. Actually, the ones that got me started on there. So
oh, that's good. I might
Yeah.
even look at those. And
Yeah.
I mean, I use Kdenlive. One thing I was going to mention too, and I had planned to mention this at the KDE corner, but it seems appropriate to just make a mention of it now, is that they have their Randa sprints or their Randa meeting, which is I think a little town in the Swiss Alps, and the KDE folks they go there in the summer for about a week, and I think today's the last day, and so there's there of course are discussions, there's coding, there's all sorts of things that go on, but one of the things they had on their list was a UI review. And so the link I'm going to post in the show notes, what they had done is they met with a professional video editor to have him take a look at the UI and just make suggestions for improvements and that kind of thing so that they can kind of set it up in a way that might be more workflow friendly.
That's nice.
Yeah, so I was pretty happy to see that. So, so this article goes into considerable detail about some of the things that were suggested and some of the changes that are coming. So, I'll go ahead and put a link in the show notes for those people who are interested in reading that.
Very
Wow, we're
cool.
still in listener feedback.
I know. Yeah, and then the last thing I got was actually a live listener
So
feedback.
who was that person? Who just sent that? The other one was that Ian?
Oh.
Did you say? That was Ian, right? I just
No,
wanted
it
to.
was
Julian.
Oh, Julian. I'm sorry, Julian.
Yeah.
So thanks, Julian, for sending your communication.
Yeah, thank you. And the reason I said it was live feedback is because they called into our hotline number.
Our buddy.
Yeah, and I actually answered the phone. But it was Trucker Rich.
Trucker Rich. Where was he when he called? Did he mention?
I think he did tell me, but I can't remember.
Okay, somewhere
was-
in the U.S.
Yeah, somewhere out west.
Okay.
But he said that he had this project he was working on, and he was looking for a little bit of advice. And he said that he wanted a way to be out, like, I don't know if it was a car show, now I can't remember, or
Some kind
whether
of a
he was,
convention.
yeah, or a convention, like
Mhm.
where he was running a booth. And he wanted people to be able to walk up, connect to his website, and with no internet access available. I don't know if they were out in the middle of
So
a
just
field or
so just
something,
on a
but
land, basically.
yeah, on his
Okay.
own land, and
Mhm.
and then be able to get info from his website. So I suggested to have a little wireless router, like a Linksys, running DDWRT,
Mhm.
and then run the hotspot mode with a landing page. And so as soon as they connect, it'll bounce them over to the landing page,
Yeah.
which will be his website, and it'll connect right in.
There you go.
Now, the only downfall that I saw of that is Android phones. I know that if they can't get out to Google or out to the internet,
they dropped the
they
connection.
automatically drop the connection. So
Yes.
I can't remember whether there's a workaround
I
for
was
that.
unaware of that.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
actually will just log back off because they realize they part of the testing they do. They go, can I get out to the internet? No. Can I use the services? No. We'll just drop this wireless.
Oh, okay.
Right. So, and I ran into that one time. I was setting up one of those wireless cameras, and you had to do it through a web interface. And I had a friend that wanted to use his phone to set it up, make sure it was configured right.
Mhm.
And it had, to do the initial setup, you have to connect right to the camera with its own little SSID,
Mhm.
and it would connect to it. We'd try to get on it, and then it would disconnect the Wi-Fi. So there is a setting. If you dig into your Wi-Fi settings in Android, you can say do not automatically disconnect or something like that, or no testing. I can't remember exactly what it's called.
Mhm.
But that's so I'm hoping that works for him. I don't know, maybe he can spoof a Google address also in that, and so that it thinks it hits Google, but unlikely.
Yeah, because I'm not sure what it requests because it does it all through SSL. It requests something.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what it's looking for when it does that.
Right.
There might be a way to. I don't know. I maybe there's an advanced setting, but
Or if anyone who's listening has
yeah,
a
if you
suggestion.
know how to do it.
Did he say
Yeah.
what the timing was for this?
He did not.
Okay.
It seemed like it was a project that was like a
Okay.
month out or something.
okay.
But
Well, I think it would be kind of interesting to see if we get any suggestions from any listeners.
yeah, let us know what you guys have done out there, and then the
But it's
site
like
he
it's
would
just
run,
its
and
own
then
little ecosystem.
yeah, and then he would have a
ecosystem.
Raspberry Pi running Apache with his little website on it.
Okay.
So it would be low power, a little wireless
Oh,
router
yeah.
and Raspberry Pi paired up, and it would do what he needed. So I know for laptops it'll work great, but like I said, for Android phones, I'm not sure
Mhm.
if maybe he has to have a little setting, say, click on or go
Yeah.
to this setting page to allow to connect or whatever. I don't know.
That or yeah, I can't.
Yeah, because he said he won't have internet access or doesn't want to run his own hotspot for people to, or Wi-Fi, for
Right.
well,
The-
not
the
Wi-Fi,
alternate-
you know what I'm saying, internet
Yeah,
connection.
yeah.
I mean, the alternate way to do it is just set up the QR codes and have a website at the same time that they can go to on their phones because pretty much everyone has a smartphone and everyone has a
QR,
They're
yeah.
using their own
That's-
internet connection,
Yeah,
and then you QR code everything, and it redirects them to where they want.
that's a good idea. Yeah,
So
so that if their phone disconnects, but it's on their own mobile,
Yeah,
then they can
you
just
create
scan
two
it and it
copies at a website.
links it
Do
over.
a mirrored one on a Raspberry Pi local for people with laptops. The reality is, we already know the general public in mass walks around with smartphones that are internet connected. So
Right.
They
QR
do?
code, yeah. with a few exceptions, you're not general public.
Right.
All right, so listeners, we don't. I think we got it figured out. No, just kidding. No, if you got any other ideas, definitely
Yeah.
let us
No,
know.
maybe there's another option out there.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I like that QR code.
yeah, I do like that too. Yeah. All right, so that's the end of the list I saw.
And that was the same list I had, Tony.
Sweet. All right. All right. Next up, we're gonna call it Distro Fever, and
Do we have music for it?
we do. Well, not
Distro.
right. We have a thing for it. I think
We have a sound bite
a
for it.
soundbite.
Is what you were trying to say, right?
Oh, did I update it? I don't know if I think I updated it. Hold
Okay.
on, let me check real quick.
We'll find out
Bear,
in post.
bear with us, folks.
Oh, I didn't. Here, let me update it. Hold
You'd swear we didn't rehearse this.
on.
We were eating cake.
That's right.
We had important things.
Mm.
That's right. Let them eat cake. All right.
Distro Fever, where we cover the latest hot distro releases and news. Distro Fever.
All right. And that was the one that he did 2 takes on the same audio, so that's why it started up again a little bit. But anyway, so Distro Fever. So it's the things that we're not going to go through every single distro that has been released in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, we're leaving
just
off all
gonna-
the Ubuntu ones, right? No. Hey, we won't have anything.
we're just going to go through the hot things that came up that we thought was interesting. So we're going to go all the way back to the 25th, 8/25.
So it's going to sound suspiciously like we are looking at everyone, but we're gonna kind of pop through it. I think fairly quickly.
That's
But
right.
yeah, you're right. There was Quirky. There was a version of Quirky that was released, and one thing I think when somebody says that they are releasing a development version, and I don't mean a development version as in the version itself is not complete, but it's a version that developers can use to develop applications, etc. Sometimes those particular releases are geared toward a particular type of environment. But what and Quirky is kind of that way as far as I think it's Android is what they're looking at, unless I'm getting it mixed up. But one thing they do,
Android app
yeah, one
developers.
thing they mentioned is it's got built into the distro everything that you can think of and that you're going to need. So you won't have to go out and grab something else and download and install it. So that's what they said. They said that this is what makes this particular version, which you're calling April,
April, yeah.
which is funny, superb as a compiling environment for any Linux project. So I mean, not only for Android, but for any Linux project, because they've geared it that way and they've thrown in everything, including the kitchen sink.
That's right. Yeah, it includes the Android SDK,
Mhm.
Android Studio, App Inventor, Oracle JDK, and Live Code.
Yeah, so I think it'd be something if you're into developing, it certainly, and you like puppy-based distros, how they're set up, it'd certainly be something to look at.
Yeah, very cool.
Okay, next
Like
one.
their logo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Cool logo.
it is. And I've got
There's
Liquid Lemur.
that's funny. I don't remember seeing them on there before.
No, they haven't been out there for years. And actually, this is only a development release. But the reason why we're mentioning something about that because that was my favorite answer for one of our "Is it a live?" questions. Is it a Linux distro? Is it a bar drink?
Liquid
so-
Lemur.
so I went out and dug up these different distros that kind of sounded like bar drinks, like one was it Blue Pacific or something. There was one, and then Liquid Lemur
Liquid Lemur.
was
That's
another
funny.
one.
Clever.
So when I saw it here, I got a big kick out of it. So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll look for that to come to a final version because this is just a development release.
Right. Then we also have on the 31st is LXLE 14.04.
Yeah, um, that particular distro, that is one I should really look into for some more modest spec computers, because you can get away with just running 512 megs of RAM and 8 gigs of hard drive space. And they said that's the absolute minimum requirement, but they recommend 1 gig of RAM and 8 gigs of hard drive space. One thing they've done on this release is that they have set as in manual mode. They're updating, but the security updates, they have now set it up as auto installed. So and they've done it because it's Ubuntu based. They've done it according to the Ubuntu spec. So you could go ahead and undo that if you want to just do it the auto the security updates yourself. But they've got it so now it just automatically updates security. So
Yeah.
that was one thing I noticed about that.
Yeah, and they went through and swapped out a bunch of different applications also.
Mm-hmm.
Like they removed Deja Dupe for System Back and what a couple other ones. The Startup Disk Creator, and put in multi-boot USB also. So that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What else do we? What's next on our Netrunner?
Yeah, well, Netrunner's made by the same Blue Systems, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're also developing KDE now, right?
Ubuntu.
Or the Kubuntu version.
Yep,
Yeah.
they're kind of sponsoring it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they've got that. And I didn't really have anything really to note on Netrunner because I don't think it was a major release.
Yeah. Well, I think it's still worth giving them a little bit of props for keeping Kubuntu running too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, one of the other ones that was on the list is Porteous Kiosk, and usually these kiosk distributions, they're kind of locked down because they're in a web kiosk, and so the general public is going to have access to it. One thing that they've got set up here is that if you want to provide support for removable media, which I'm not sure what web kiosk companies necessarily would do that, but sometimes they might. They tell you what you need to do, and that's essentially to whitelist. And they've got a little URL that you would whitelist, so that then anybody who wants to then can plug in a USB and use it. So
I guess it would be handy if it's going to be like a job forum kind of kiosk. Somebody come in and apply, then they can bring their resume on a USB key or something.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. I've been looking at some of these as well because restaurants, just in my business, I get a lot of people asking about different point of sale systems, and there's some open source point of sale systems, and ideally you'd want to run it on something locked down like this as well. So
yeah,
once I get them done reviewed, I may actually, if I get one of them up running and I take the time to learn it, I may talk a little bit about it.
Oh yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great talk.
Yeah, and one other thing too they did is they've added support for if the browser's been sitting for a while and there's been no user activity, they recycle the browser, kind of like start it up again. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
so
because
they've added
you can
that.
assume if it's not being used that person walked away, and you don't want that form or whatever still running your session, right?
Precisely. Yeah. So
That's a
they
good
kind of
idea.
added
That's a nice
that.
feature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Elementary OS was released 0.3.1, and it's updated Ubuntu, and they're calling it Pantheon.
Yeah, and one thing that they added to this, and I think it wasn't really something that they did. It's just that I think the most recent version of Plank, which is that's kind of a docking, little docking toolbar for apps and things, is that they've enabled, or it's available now. It's called Window Dodge, and Window Dodge, what that is the dock will hide if it obstructs any window. So they've got that available for what it's worth.
All right. It's interesting, right? In DistroWatch, the elementary OS, and then the one right above it is Olive, or Elv.
Elive.
They ELIV, yeah, Elive. It's also a docking system where the launcher bar, it's at the bottom like a dock.
Yeah.
But it just
kind of
the two little screenshots looked interesting. That's all I was going with. Let's let's see. We've got Robo Linux 8.1 XFCE was released 9.5.
Yeah, you know what's notable about that? I mean, they did go into considerable detail about the 12 different security applications they've got in here. Things like Rootkit Check, um, the Stealth Text Vault, which will allow you to hide things inside a file using steganography. They also mentioned that PCs and laptops with video cards manufactured before 2008 are no longer supported in this Raptor series. So if you want to use, if you have a machine that is older than 2008 and it's still running, their Series 7 operating system, the LTS version, will support those old video cards, and that usually is where the issue is. It's usually RAM and video.
Right.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So yeah, so all is not lost.
All right.
Okay, and we got Handy.
Yeah, Handy Linux 2.2 was released on 9.6.
Yeah, and in the and if you look at it, if you go out to the release announcement, it's in French.
Mhm.
And to quote Sarah Palin, "Speak American."
Yeah.
I'm mocking. I'm mocking. I'm
Yeah.
mocking. Oh my goodness! But no, I did a review of Handy Linux.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like their logo because
Yeah, the
it's
logo's pretty
Debian
cool.
based, so they have like the
Yeah,
Debian swirl
Debian logo with the hand.
With the
but
hand.
in
Yes.
a hand. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, they got one out, and then
And then on the 7th we have Peppermint OS 6 dash 2015-0904, which Peppermint OS is a lightweight distro based on Ubuntu 14.04, but it uses the FWM window manager
Mhm.
with LXDE desktop environment.
yeah, it is lightweight. And one thing they do too to kind of promote, or at least to make that lightweight still viable or to be in place, is that they use site-specific browsers and what they call the ICE application. And I went out to their site, and what this is it allows, for those of you who may not be familiar with it, a single site, this SSB, that's CRC or Bravo, is a software application that's dedicated to accessing pages from a single source on a computer network, such as the internet or private internet. Hey, maybe this might be something that Trekker Rich could do.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it just essentially simplifies the more complex functions of the web browser. So it excludes things like maybe that aren't needed, like menus and toolbars. You don't need a menu or toolbar, do you?
No, they're overrated.
And because I remember seeing some of these in a couple of the distros I reviewed maybe a year or two ago, where it's in the menu and you open it up and you can tell it's a browser, but you got your app functionality right there.
Nice.
Yeah. So and Peppermint OS makes heavy use of this, as
Yeah.
you might imagine, because they're lightweight distro.
Right, and they do a lot more of the cloud stuff,
Mhm.
right? So instead of having a like LibreOffice installed, it links out to Google Docs, doesn't it? I'm pretty sure.
It
At
might.
least that's the way it used to be.
Mhm.
So it's very cool. All right, what else? What's
Oh, I was going to mention. I know 4M Linux is on that list. I didn't, and they have got, I think, XBMC in there. I didn't realize that the name had changed to Kodi or Kodai.
Oh yeah, it was about 2 years ago. It was a while ago.
This is
Cody.
news.
Yeah.
Hey, in my world, I don't know why I missed that. Maybe I heard it and I forgot about it.
I don't know. We haven't really talked about XBNC a whole lot.
No, not recently.
But yeah, it's called Kodi, and it's
Mhm.
because the original name XBMC is the
Xbox.
it's for Xbox,
Mhm.
and
Xbox Media Center.
exactly. But they've gone way far away from running on Xboxes to running on just about everything.
Yeah, so it makes sense they changed it
yeah,
2 years
exactly.
ago.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll move on so I can not be embarrassed anymore.
All right. What? And then we have Pingai OS.
Yeah,
Right.
they came out.
And
I think it's kind of a small update, but the one that was kind of interesting to me was Ghost BSD.
oh yeah.
Now, the reason why it's interesting is not just because it's a BSD release, but one thing I noted is that they have removed Spider Oak from the default system, which implies that in the previous release, Spider Oak was there. And in the last few episodes, I've talked about wanting to get away from Dropbox and thinking Spider Oak would be a good way for me to do it. So what I did on my laptop is after I did my clean install of PCBSD, I went out and installed Spider Oak. And you know what they do is they install the Linux client, and I have a whole compatibility. I went and took a look on in my file structure, my directory structure, but they've got a whole there's a little it's compat, which is for compatibility, and then inside there I've got Linux, kind of a Linux file structure layout.
Okay.
And it appears to be working now. It opens up. I had no problems, unlike I think 3 or 4 weeks ago when I could get it installed, but it was not. It was crapping out on the. Whoops, is that a swear word?
Yeah.
On the on the login where there was some security certificate that was not popping up. Now it looks really good. The only problem is that all my files are 0 bytes, so it's like it downloads the metadata for the files, but the actual files themselves have not come down. So I'm going to do some research to check that out. But I may just look into Ghost BSD and see if if it's in the repository, I'll just install it and see if maybe I get better luck with it. So anyway, so yeah, I'm going to look into that further.
Very nice. Thank you, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So next on our list is we're going on to our news.
Oh, yeah.
Tech news and views.
All right. So what articles did you guys have for this week?
Well, I'll start with one of them that I found interesting. Now, I'm not really a gamer, but gaming on Linux, of course, is the excuse a lot of people use is why they won't switch because they're so used to it. Even though when Steam released their top games of 2014, I believe 6 or 7 out of the top 10 were all available on Linux. There's a guy has a blog website, boilingsteam.com, and the latest releases are pretty awesome. So he did a test with I think this was Dota 2, and same system, multi-boot, 35 to 50 frames per second more running on Linux. And now this is becoming a trend for a lot of games. And he's comparing it to Windows 10, of course. So the excuses are going away. It's now becoming faster on Linux than it is on there. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
That we're moving towards that. So now the gamers, and of course Steam supports Linux and things like that. The biggest problem is when you go to download a game, Little Penguin's missing. And you're like, oh, but
that's the one thing that kind of annoyed me too. That there's a lot of games that aren't Linux compatible, and so I've kind of gotten away from using Steam.
Yeah, there's but now it's turning circle, and it's Steam just facilitates, and it's the developers, and developers are starting to realize the problems with Windows, and saying we can develop for this platform, and of course the Steam box will only push that because Steam box is being essentially PC console style. They're all Linux based, so they're going to have to develop in that language, which of course brings it right to the Linux desktop, which more and more games are on there. And so my friends, that's one of the things they say, is my friends are like, I'd switch, but I got to play this game, and this game isn't available on Linux. And if they did it on things like Play for Linux or through Wine emulation, it's substantially slower. So now with this, a lot of these games native, we are seeing the frame rates, and of course that gets the developers excited, and hopefully this becomes a big trend.
Yeah, that's really good.
Mycroft, have you heard of Mycroft?
I saw a mention of it.
They reached their funding goal, and what they are, Linux does not have, and I guess we're just feeling left out here. We have Siri that's going to be eventually coming to the Mac desktop, and Cortana, of course, made its debut in Windows 10 as voice activation. So we have Mycroft for Linux, and it's going to be a voice-aware, voice-activated, 100% open source project for voice activation and control. So it's they reach their funding goals. They're going to be releasing everything, and of course, being open source, it's going to be there. Now we can start. Hopefully, this project will let us talk to our Linux desktops if you want to.
Will it have a swear filter?
I don't know.
Hey, well, the other thing too, what's interesting about that is, if when all that's released, it's open source.
Yes.
So there's the whole. You kind of move that thought down the road a little bit. So then maybe cross-plat. I mean,
yes, that's a part of it is it's open source. Now it is a client server type system. One of the problems is you need a lot of big computing power so you can run it on a Raspberry
Oh,
Pi,
sure,
but
sure.
then it needs to interpret voice on the back end. But being
Okay.
open source, you can roll your own backend servers if you want to. They're going to be publishing everything as it goes. It's really a slick product. I didn't really catch why they called it Mycroft. I know that the Sherlock Holmes' older brother, it's maybe that's why that's his name. They needed a cool name. I wasn't sure. Someone had said there's an obscure book reference where that was the robot's name in some 60s sci-fi
Oh,
book
okay.
that was never made for a movie or anything.
What was that? The Explorer. It was a game. There was a female explorer. Not Dora either. No, this was
Oh
uh,
yeah.
Laura
Lara Croft.
Croft.
Yeah,
Oh, just
Lara
Croft. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's from what I'm looking at the Kickstarter page, they're doing a device that would sit in your
Yes.
house. It's very similar to
Amazon's
the
Echo.
yeah, the Echo,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and it's built on a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, as I said, it's a pretty slick little
Hmm.
device. They've got hooks. I guess Ubuntu's going to support the project, if I caught that right. That they're going to be looking at integrating it within there.
All right, nice.
So because it
Yeah.
has a physical component, so it works like an Amazon Echo, so you can have a set-top box that can then go out and control Internet of Things devices, and then it also has a desktop integration.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of the Raspberry Pi, I think I just read that it's getting now its own little 7-inch monitor.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
You can
I mean, you could plug it into a
Yeah.
regular size one, but my point is that
Well-
apparently and I don't have the link unfortunately. So, but I read it on the internet, so it must be true. But yeah, it's like a little 7-inch monitor that apparently is for it.
they've made a few different ones on
Uh-huh.
there. I can't remember the guy's name. But he's a real popular maker.
Mhm.
One of the things he does is he builds mini gaming cabinets, Raspberry Pi with MAME on there, and then it
Okay.
has its own little screen. And they're
Oh, neat.
basically portable, small gaming devices using MAME and small screens on there.
Huh.
When I was at the Makers Fair, they had them demoed, and I couldn't resist
Cool.
playing with them. I love old school games. I can't. I'm
Yeah.
not. I don't really care for any new games that have been released, but you give me some old school games.
Pong, man, that
Yeah.
Pong, man, I tell you, I love that thing. Just kidding.
yeah.
Uh,
Any
that
one
was
thing
my
I
first
see,
game I ever played was Pong,
I had
and
I
not
had the
beer
box.
pong either. It was the
Oh.
little the little paddles.
I had one of those. I used to
Yeah.
play it all the time.
Yeah.
And then Activision, I remember well, now that was a little further along, but I get these cartridges. I've had that little Activision system. Remember that?
No.
Okay. Oh,
Sorry.
you were too young. Okay,
Oh,
sorry.
I had Atari
Oh, yeah, I'm the
2600 with
oldest.
all of them, and
Yeah.
yeah,
I'll
they
tell
were
ya.
so many
Cool.
cartridges.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, what I see, I'm looking on the Kickstarter still, and it says it just like in the Echo, you say it says say Minecraft, and then play whatever song, and then you can say from YouTube, so it'll go to YouTube, play that. You say on my Chromecast, and it'll start casting it right to your Chromecast.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That is really cool.
Hmm.
So it works with all sorts of systems, and it also says it's going to link in with your Internet of Things, smart hubs, and things like that. So it's
Yeah, again, it brings that control. I
Really
like that
cool.
it's open source, so you'll understand what they are or not sending. 'Cause that's the concern with the Xbox Net. What are they sending? How are they sending it? Because it's
Mhm.
all open source, we'll actually get to peek behind the scenes of what's actually happening. This was the big controversy with Windows 10 is that all of your requests for Cortana are going to Microsoft server. So what all is their microphone doing? What all is it listening? And this is the same problem with Google and their OK Google system that you can use through the desktop. It's always listening, but what is it listening to?
right.
Yeah, that is very bothersome.
And when it's closed source, you just don't know.
Yeah, and that's why when I upgrade my Windows box to 10, I'm either gonna we mentioned before I think we started recording.
Yeah.
I'm gonna either get it imaged onto a virtual machine and then run Linux and then run Windows from that way,
Mhm.
so I've got more control over. Or I'm just never gonna hook up a microphone because it's on a desktop and I don't even
Right.
have a microphone plugged into
Well,
it right
and
now.
the other easy way around privacy with setting up Windows is it's a small little icon when you're setting it up because it wants you to sign up with a Windows Live account, but it is skippable. You set up a local account, And it warns you, you're going to miss out on all the fun. You're not going to get these cool features.
Who cares? Yeah.
Which also means you're not going to get all the spine features. And
Yeah.
that actually is a quick workaround for Windows 10 to disable all those type of features. Is to simply set up a local account, and it can that opts you out of the fun stuff.
Mhm.
You know, like having them know all your documents and listen to you, and it also removes their ability to know who you are, because you're actually given a token, and of course it's been jokingly called the advertising ID. When you sign in with your live account, they basically know who you are when you sign in, so that becomes your tracking ID for information, and it does work like an advertising ID, so they can serve you contextual ads.
Right.
You know, if you ever used Bing, they would know because you're signed in your live account that you're using Bing.
I never use Bing.
Nobody Bings
You know what the last thing I heard about that is that so Windows 10 has all this stuff that they've built in, and a lot of people are saying, "Well, I'm not going to Windows 10 because of that." Well, they're starting to push some of that stuff onto Windows 8 and Windows 7 now too.
Yes, as a matter of fact, the last update I got, I went in and I unchecked. There were 3 things that that I refused to install in my last update because I think it was related to that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, think about the annoyance it is on people who have Windows 7 who are happy with it, or or especially people who have some application that runs on Windows 7 that may have some compatibility issues. It's constantly bugging them to upgrade to 10. You didn't ask to be bugged, and that just came with an update. I mean, of course, yes, you can disable it, but the general consumer goes, "Wait, I got to change a registry key. What update did this? All I do is run the updates. Now it's bugging me. I should update to Windows 10."
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah, we should tell people that this is the Windows rant portion of our news show. All right, we're going to move on to our next news item.
Yeah.
IBM has a couple new mainframes called Emperor and Rockhopper. And yes, those are names of penguins.
All right.
They named them after penguins because they're partnering with Ubuntu on the mainframe market.
Wow.
Wow, yeah, that's pretty good.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, so IBM's coming back, which I always like those somewhat creepy, but early IBM commercials for Linux, if you remember them.
The little boy.
The little boy
yeah,
sitting there, yeah. They were really pushed it for a while, and I'm someone who used to administer.
You can still see them on YouTube.
Yes, and I used to administer AIX machines, and I was so happy when they moved to Linux because that just works better. If you've used AIX, you'll swear a lot.
What is that? It's their version of Unix?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it had a lot of little quirkiness. I never liked it. I don't. I had a mixed environment of at the time Red Hat servers and AIX boxes for the enterprise software company when I worked in corporate that we ran. I just never liked AIX. It just little quirky problems, stupid things I had with it. I think IBM builds absolutely beautiful hardware. It was some of the most reliable, solid platform for hardware. So when you partnered it with Linux, it built an amazing machine.
And it was blue too.
Yes, it was blue. So yeah, they're realizing Ubuntu's importance in the server marketplace. So they're going to be working with Canonical and putting this on there.
So and I don't know if you know the answer to this question. So Ubuntu has the desktop, and then they have Ubuntu server.
Yes.
So did they take the Ubuntu server and are gonna
it's all the server side.
It?
And with Ubuntu having some of the and forgive me because I can't remember the name of it, the new deployment tools that they released for their server side that allows you to add features and tie servers together when you're building structure and infrastructure with it. I can't remember the name of it. It's a really nice system that they built it dramatically speeds up deployment essentially. So they're going to be utilizing all of those features. Ubuntu's on a long way for that, and for able to spin up these servers. And of course,
for them.
With the advent of Docker and things like that, you need something as powerful as a mainframe to do this.
Sure.
And their client really isn't the end user. If I understand this, they want to sell these mainframes so companies can create competition with AWS.
Oh, so, that makes sense.
Right now. So if I'm a company and I want to offer this as a service, I need something as powerful as Amazon has. So they said they only sell about 47 mainframes a year.
Really?
But I can't imagine the price in it. I don't think, if you have to ask, you can't afford it.
Exactly.
They publish the pricing on the mainframes.
Wow, yeah.
Someone knows, and they could probably message us with it. But either way, it's another deployment that's interesting. And it'll only further the Linux world.
Yeah.
And the Google folks released a Gen 2 Linux-based OnHub. Have you seen this thing?
No.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it yet. That's their router, right?
Yes. They have the new router. It's weird. It's big. It's not small. It has voice capability on it. It has no web interface at all. When you set this up, it's basically it's got lots of antennas. It's got all the cool features. 13 antennas, Bluetooth, Zigbee, but you do everything through a mobile app on your phone, Android and iOS supported. But it's, as I understand from any of the reviews I've read on this, it's a $200 router that's not as fast as other $200 routers.
Really?
It auto updates. It keeps things very smooth, but it lacks a lot of ports. It's meant to really just connect all your IoT devices very simply together. But as I understand from the app and looking at the reviews I've seen online of it, it's not very featured. It's real basic, which is a little bit disappointing. You think it, being based on Gen 2 Linux. Of course, it is made by TP-Link. If you're not familiar with TP-Link, they make really cheap $20 routers. That's what they're known for. They're actually probably the best $20 routers you can buy. They're not awful products. They do seem to work, but they're the popular ones you can find. If you go on Amazon, you look for a cheap router, you're going to find a TP-Link. And they work. I've run into a lot of them. Of the cheap routers, I think they make a pretty decent one. But nonetheless, Google wants to get into the market, and they wanted it running on open source because we've seen so many router exploits. We've seen so many problems with that, and they want to make things really easy to connect, so that was kind of their purpose. The reviews on the antenna array they used, though, although they brag about lots of antennas, was it's not super fast. They compared it to a 2-year-old Asus router that has similar features, because the features that has been out for a while, and they got substantially more speed across the Wi-Fi.
Oh, wow.
But you're talking about Wi-Fi device to device. You're still not exceeding your internet capacity. I got so many megabits of Wi-Fi, but I've only got an 8 megabit or 10 megabit internet connection. So how relevant is that?
Yeah, why? Yeah, exactly. So have a wireless end that can go 110 meg.
Exactly.
But you have a 5 meg internet connection.
I see a lot of people, and they think they need a new Wi-Fi router, and I'm like, no, it's not that. Your internet connection, you're using an AT&T DSL. You're stuck at 7 megabit. That's why Netflix is pausing.
Right, exactly.
Are you saying my UVerse is not going to get any faster?
You could buy a new router and still be disappointed.
Actually, they have 50 megabit UVerse.
Yeah, UVerse has gotten faster, but
okay.
But so if you're still on wireless B, then you're at 54 meg. So
okay. I see. Yeah,
it's
you
almost met there.
Almost met.
Okay.
Yeah.
But once you get a 100 megabit circuit like I have, then you need something faster.
What are you using at home? Comcast, Xfinity.
Yeah. Well,
is it reliable?
In my office, we have Comcast Business and static IPs. They even allow hosting on the business accounts and things like that. And at home, I use Wide Open West.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
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 Wow. Yeah.
All right.
A little bit of kernel news. It looks like, and we can put the link in the show notes for the conversation that occurred related to this. Extent 3 will be removed, which I think is 28,000 lines of code from the new kernel.
EXT3?
Yeah, EXT3.
Wow, really?
Yes. They're not removing support for it. They're removing that code because the EXT4 code is backwards compatible.
Oh,
so the conversation was thrown out there. The
Yeah,
headline got me to click.
Right.
Like, wait a minute here. I probably have something somewhere running this. But nonetheless, apparently Linus said he would agree to it as long as the people who developed the EXT4 had no problems supporting all features that are on there, and they don't, because as I understand, there's complete backwards compatibility.
Okay.
So the code is going to be there. But this shows something I really like about the Linux kernel is when we and maybe other open source projects should be done like this, and it would eliminate some problems we have with things like SSL, where you have deprecated code. You're like, we just don't need this anymore because we have it over here, and they're taking the time to look at that and go, you know what, we can eliminate just 20,000 lines of code here by getting rid of something because we have this here. And that's where we run in, because maybe they'll find a security bug in that. But I think that's what keeps the Linux kernel so optimized, is we just go, we ain't using it, and we have a better solution, and it's backwards compatible, so we're not breaking anything. So let's just cut some code out.
Yeah, this is nice.
It's nice due diligence.
Yeah, I agree.
Kudos to them.
Yeah. Last thing I'll talk about is, well, two things security-wise. Seagate hard drives.
We talked about them a few weeks ago, didn't we?
Over failures.
Yeah.
This is a different type of failure. This is just this shouldn't occur in the year 2015. Seagate wireless hard drives. You can telnet into them. One, why is telnet enabled? Two, you can log in with the username root and the password of root. we'll just call this the root squared stupid problem.
Yeah, really.
Squared stupid problem.
Yeah, so you
Oh my goodness.
yeah, stupid squared here. Apparently, my guess would be it was a development feature that they were using when they were testing, and it
And
just
they
got,
forgot to.
they forgot to disable it. And it's
Wow, that's a process change. Come
And
on.
it's hard coded in, right? So you can't remove it.
there is a firmware update that fixes it,
Yes.
but it
You have to
Okay.
do a
yeah.
firmware update.
You have to do a firmware update to repair this, but if you're on the same Wi-Fi network as any of these drives, you can simply telnet in root and own them. Of course, this opens up all kinds of more features that you can do and hacking and things like that.
Right.
I hacked my Buffalo drives a long time ago. I had to do a similar thing where we had to enable telnet through an exploit, but we used to reprogram Buffalo NAS drives to do different things based on that, because they actually have their own little controller chips in them, and so it actually probably maybe we'll see some cool products come out of these broken Seagates.
Right.
And then Firezilla Bugzilla compromise. So we've all seen some updates since the last show of Firefox, and what prompted the updates was there apparently Bugzilla, another Bugzilla was hacked, and the same username password was used, if I read this article properly, and that made them compromise the one for Firefox Bugzilla, which then led them to seeing all these reported 0 days that they hadn't got around the fix yet. And then the hacker that did it, of course, started exploiting these. So hacking the bug database of bugs submitted to them for repair gave them the knowledge they needed to then create in the wild exploits. So that's been fixed.
Wow. Yeah.
And patched, but that's yeah, still embarrassing.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Not as embarrassing as the Ashley Madison hack, probably.
No,
was.
not as embarrassing as Ashley Madison hack.
Okay.
Yeah. And they anyway, we don't need to talk about that.
No, I was only making a joke.
No, yeah.
Just a joke.
Yeah.
Just a joke, sir. Just a joke.
Just do a little bit of Googling.
All right,
It's
yeah.
still popular. You know, I watched I finally watched the last show of Mr. Robot,
Yes.
and they
Oh, I have
referenced it
not.
in there. That was
La, la,
funny.
la, la. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen the last episode.
All right. Yeah.
No,
So we
no-
won't
no
talk
spoiler
about it,
alert.
Oh,
or-
I won't spoil it, but I will laugh that they did congratulate the show for. They said, "Oh, we see you referenced Ashley Madison hack." They were doing an interview with the writers, and they're like, "Yeah, that was just great coincidence." And they said, "No, we think you pulled off the hack to make the show more realistic," and it turned into a fun discussion. And it's
That's
just it's not a spoiler; it's
Uh,
just a little piece of the show. But the
yeah.
there's plenty of interviews with Sam SML, the guy who does most of the writing. They're great.
Are they on YouTube or?
You can find him on YouTube. You can find, he also did an AMA on Reddit, and
Nice.
so there's plenty of conversation. He interacted a lot with all of us, which was just great.
That's
Um,
cool.
He dispelled that no, well, part of it, you know, when you dig deep into things like Mr. Robot, Sam Esmail, is that just a word change for mass email? But no, it turns out he's a real person.
Yeah.
Maybe it was his parents' idea.
Yeah.
Mm,
So
Oh.
that yeah, definitely wrapped up a wonderful series, and it's exciting. The
Uh-huh.
last episode.
Yeah.
We won't spoil anything, which is it's worth watching. How's that?
Yeah, it is, and
I'm
I'm
excited
about
for
halfway
season
through
2.
it.
I'm disappointed because it's going to be a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, that's the problem, is that they release these all at once, and so people tend to binge watch.
I tend to
I-
binge watch.
I don't.
Well, and
I
it's
just
a
say,
short
you know,
season too. It's only 10 episodes.
Yeah.
In a season.
yeah,
and-
I'm only through 4, I think.
Okay. Yeah. You gotta. It really gets interesting after
Does
that.
it?
It just
Yeah.
keeps
Okay.
stacking up, getting better. It's there's no downturn for any episode.
Yeah.
Each one stacks up more information in your head. You put more things together.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, Tom. That's some good
Oh, no
news.
problem.
Interesting
Good
news.
news, interesting news.
Yeah,
Emma.
interesting. Yeah. Well, I do have one I wanted to mention. And a few years ago, Munich, Germany, or München, as they say over there, converted from Windows to Linux, and there was some talk, I think, last year, or there was some rumblings or rumors that they were thinking of switching back, and I
Oh
think
yeah.
those proved to be unfounded, and were mainly, I think, one new member of their city council or their commission, who I
Yeah.
think who was a Windows fan, just kind of wanting to.
One
yeah.
person was pushing pretty hard, right?
Yeah. But anyway, there was an article on the site that is it's called Join Up, and this is a site for public officials in Europe, public IT folks, to share experiences and this type of thing. because when sort of create once, maybe use many times, just ideas, this type of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, but they were talking about Munich now being a major contributor to open source.
Really?
Yeah, and they were talking about what they've done, and they talked about this at a recent convention over there. The members, several of the city's IT staff members, they participated in DebConf this year, and they shared best practices and some of the other things in their approach to managing. Which I think at the time they made the conversion, they had 15,000 or so Linux desktops that they converted to Linux, and now it's up to 17,000.
Nice.
So I guess that just goes to show you government grows everywhere.
Yes.
But they're combining something called GOSA. Are you familiar with GOSA?
No.
GOSA it's a web-based administration tool for user accounts, groups, servers, clients, and many other things. It integrates with FAI Pixie or PXE to provide unattended installation updates of operating systems derived from Debian. But anyway, and by the way, the configuration data is stored in a database that supports LDAP, such as OpenLDAP.
Oh, that's nice.
So anyway, they were talking about the fact that they're using that with LDAP as a way to fully automate updates and in installations. They also went on to say too that they're on the 5th version of their kind of customized Linux distribution. Now it was based on Kubuntu, but they call it Linux, and so they've gone through 5 iterations of it, and they've got it comes with Firefox, LibreOffice, and Thunderbird. They also talked about just kind of the hardware maintenance, just the infrastructure for managing that, and they have to keep it. They said when you've got almost 18,000 PCs, you got to stock about a half a year's worth of hardware, different components for failures along the way, because that's a lot of desktops. And then they also mentioned too that they're using DAC, which is Debian's. It's a Debian toolkit, I believe, and you're probably familiar with it. It's the Debian Archive Kit, and it's a collection of tools that work together to manage Debian package repositories. So apparently that allows them for some of their custom things. I guess it allows them to
you can roll your own repositories in there
and integrate it with.
Because they also support a hierarchical system. Because if you're behind a network, instead of re-downloading everything from the repositories each time for each system, it works like the WSUS system works in Windows. That you can set up a local copy, so one server then replicates, so everything downloads from that one server.
Okay.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, so they talked about that, and then finally, they mentioned too that they have one of the IT staff members there has contributed 96 patches to LibreOffice, all of which were included in the most recent version.
Oh. And
then also Munich itself is backporting some of the 300 patches to the earlier LibreOffice version that the city still uses. So I think and what is LibreOffice up to now? 5? Did they release 5 yet?
Yeah, they just had a new release.
Yeah, so those 96 patches are in 5, and then Munich backported some of those to earlier versions so that they had it. Yeah. So anyway, I thought the article was pretty interesting. It really shows how this city in Germany has really moved to, and I think is fairly solidly in the open source camp.
Yeah, no, and that's great. I love when I see more governments moving to open source, because then I like to see that my tax dollars then contribute back to products that I can use. It's a win-win situation all the way around. They updated a security patch. They updated some features in LibreOffice. I can then go download these updated features in LibreOffice. Everybody wins.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
exactly.
This is a great idea.
I agree.
Yep. Smash capitalism. I'm joking. So anyway, that was my main news article.
All right, thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
I found a couple. One, I was looking for like a this day in history thing, and a few days ago, it was last week.
Speaking of this day in history, I believe Dennis Ritchie's, who has since passed on, I believe his birthday was this past week. I want to say it was like the 7th or 8th of September.
Yeah.
So just wanted to mention that because
happy birthday
he's
to him.
one of the fathers of Unix.
Right. But the first commercial hard drive went.
Oh, there we go.
Oh yeah, for the first commercial hard drive went on sale September 4th, 1956.
Ooh.
Really?
Yeah. And,
how many kilobytes is on it? How many megs?
It was you know what? I don't think it said, but it was an IBM 350. So I'd say maybe it's 350K.
Hmm.
Model 1. And there's a picture of it. It's a cabinet, a couple cabinets now. It's huge.
It is.
I could store about 4 to 5 megs.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Uh, it was interesting. It says that the unit was designed to replace the card or tub file system.
Hmm.
So that's it.
Yeah, it's like a big cabinet.
Yeah, yeah, it's
That's
pretty
funny.
big.
I remember back in, I think it was like in the maybe late 80s or something. At work, we had, this is when you loaded your operating system with a floppy and that whole thing,
Yeah.
or uh, I seem to have kind of vague memories of this. One of the IT guys, he had what he called a 10 meg hard card, which apparently was like a card that you put in your computer that had a little 10 megabyte hard drive on it.
Oh, that's
Huh.
cool.
And he let me install that and use it, and I was just kind of excited to have. I had this 10 meg hard card. It just sounded so cool to have.
That's cool.
Oh my gosh! So.
I have seen something recently related to that where it's like
Mhm.
a PCI card where it is a hard drive. It doesn't have like a ID or SATA
Hmm.
ports on it, but it's like a SATA controller
Yeah.
that is in with a hard drive or their flash all built right into the card.
Oh
Yeah,
really?
they do it because there's the world of speed is not fast enough for SATA. People who need something even faster, SATA interface tops out. Actually, SATA is a limiting factor in SSDs. SSD can be made even faster, but not till the next interface. So what these cards do is allow an even faster hard drive to be installed
Mhm.
in your computer.
Yeah.
So they use them for swap. They use them for.
Mhm.
I've seen some CAD workstations came with those. I think one of my engineering firms is they pre-order their really high-end systems. But I think that's one of the things that's in there. So they preload some of their files on it they're working on, so it has faster access. It's
Oh,
pretty slick.
nice.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
real expensive.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hard drives have come a long way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember, and I maybe mentioned this a couple years ago on one of our episodes, but the first hard drive I ever purchased to put into a machine was 350 megabytes, and I remember paying like 300 and some bucks for it,
Oh wow.
$327 for a 350 megabyte hard drive.
Yeah. I remember the first computer my family had a 25 meg hard drive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Old stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I have a couple articles. One is from a SANS Institute. The that they deal a lot with security and
Mhm.
stuff, and they talk about the vulnerability for Android called stage fright.
Yes.
And I can't remember whether we discussed this a couple of weeks ago
I
or
think
not.
we
But
brought it up in brief,
Yeah.
but didn't get into detail in there. But it's basically the MMS vulnerability.
right. Yep. And there's also a MP4 vulnerability built in with it too, or maybe it's a separate. I'm not really sure at this moment. I
Mhm.
didn't read into that part.
Well, it stage fright starts with an MMS download, and then it has to be a video file that exploits that. So it's a combination of the two.
Okay.
And the only mitigation for it is to not download MMS messages. It doesn't have to actually open it. You don't have to play the file. It just has to get into your system.
Yeah.
It can
It's-
be disturbing.
It's disturbing.
So the latest version, there's actually 7 versions of that now. That it's been patched, and then they found another vulnerability and
Yes.
patched, and blah blah, it goes back and forth. And the latest version, the code for it has been released to the public.
Oh,
And so there's actually 3 different articles that talk about it. One's on Ars Technica, another one on ZDNet, and eWeek. So all 3 of those are linked from this SANS Institute article. But what I was talking about, I looked at the Ars Technica, and they talk about it, and the latest versions, the CVE 2015 3864, and that's the one that is actually, there's a bug for that from another update. So it's unlikely that people are actually having this bug if you didn't get like the previous update. So you're anyway. It was just a funny like the way it went about this anyway.
Mhm.
But there's actually an app that you can get on your phone from Ziperium is the company,
Yeah.
and it will go through and scan your phone and tell you whether you're vulnerable and which
Is that in
ones
the Google Play Store?
it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've heard about this uh, from another podcast, Security Now.
Yeah.
Talked about
You're
it.
right.
And actually, I'm running it on mine, and you can see a big red. I'm vulnerable because of this last one. So I
Oh.
patched up through the 6 versions, and then the last one I'm
Oh, okay.
vulnerable on.
Okay.
But um, but so that's one thing. If you're interested about what it is, what it is, or and why not, you can read the article. Um, and what's also neat on that app is that it goes through and suggests ways to mitigate with best practices and things like that.
As soon as it came out, I turned off MMS download
Oh,
auto. So I turned that out as soon as I heard about it. So I figured I probably wasn't patched, but that way I right away was on top of it, at least for my own. And I receive very, very few MMS messages. I receive text messages all the time, but very, very few have any attachments to them.
Mm.
So
Right.
it was less of a concern to me. I tell people if they want to email me a file, do it. And Verizon is their own pain in the butt because whatever reason, I don't know if you've seen this, Tony, you have Verizon. When someone sends me an MS message, it won't, even when I had it set to download, it sometimes wouldn't show up for 10 minutes after I get the text. They'll say, you have MMS. Click here, and you touch it. And sometimes
Nothing.
it'd show up. Sometimes it would say, this is expired. Okay.
Right,
Whatever it was, I hope
exactly.
it wasn't important.
Well,
Yeah.
most of the MMSs that I get are group
Yes.
text messages. So my wife and my mother-in-law will be texting back and forth, and then I'll get like the last 3 messages out of
Yes.
a 10 message string. I'm like, what's going on?
I have threatened people with blocking if they add me to group text messaging. This is evil.
Right.
There's better ways to do it. You can get me on Hangouts. You can get me on Facebook Messenger in a group message. But no, you're not going to do it with text. This is a bad idea.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what I had.
That's definitely interesting. I loaded it while we were sitting here. I remember hearing about it. So let's see if I'm stage fright in
Mm.
analysis.
All right.
All right, and while you're
Well, Tom's doing that. I've got just one.
I'm vulnerable. Only on one of them. I'm patched on almost all but one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm afraid to look for mine. But anyway, I just got one item for KDE Corner. We already talked about Caden Live and some of the changes are going to come up and how they're doing that. But they did publish the Randa report, and the focus is what they're calling eye candy. And so what they're doing is the focus was on visual design and some of the things that they're making changes to. For example, the oxygen icons, which is the default icon set in KDE, they're making those available in their Breeze theme because some of the icons right now, and I see it in Kubuntu, are I have my own personal icon set that I take from distro to distro, or at least from version to version, and I can't get them to run in 5. So it's another little thing that just bothers me.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm just gonna let it ride and see what happens. But they're also meeting with the Plasma maintainers on Plasma Mobile, so they're going to take that Plasma desktop that's a little buggy and transition it to mobile.
Mm.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting. They're also going to be looking at the look and feel of sidebars with the Plasma developers. And then also they're going to rework some of the system settings in the KDE control module for desktop search. I think that's been one thing I did is I installed something called Recall, which is a KDE application that it indexes everything, and then you can go into Recall and search for things rather than using. I think they went from Nepomuk to Baloo, but and maybe Recall uses that or it has its own engine. I just like the standard KDE one. And then they plan to fix all icon related bugs. So they've got a little list of things still to do, but that'll be in the show notes, this link. So you can
Yeah.
take a look at it, any KDE fans out there.
I remember you guys talking about Nimblemuck in the past, and that was one suggestion that you and Matt made, that if you have an older system running KDE and you want it to
Disable
give a
it.
little more performance, yeah, disable
Mhm.
Nimblemuck or that search engine.
Yeah, and they
Search
finally
engine.
ended up getting rid of it.
Okay.
Or at least when I say getting rid of it, they're using Baloo, which may have some components from it. I haven't done any in-depth research on it, but it probably will help.
Yeah,
So, that's it.
very cool. Well, I've got a little bit of music this week, and it's Happy Birthday.
You looked at me slyly, and I thought, "Oh my God, it's going to be a birthday." Is
Yeah.
it Stevie Stevie Wonder's happy birthday?
You know what? I
Happy
grabbed some
birthday.
random Happy Birthday off of.
Put happy birthday and put Stevie Wonder.
Is it copyrighted? Can I play it on the show?
Oh, it's probably. Oh, one time they'll just ask you to take it down. You'll take it down.
All right.
See? This is what we play in Detroit for happy birthday. It has a little bit of an intro.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's a 4-minute happy birthday song, though.
Hey, come on. Aren't I worth it?
Yeah.
So, and then it just happy birthday to ya. So, and this was recorded at Radio City Music Hall.
Yeah.
Stevie Wonder's he's one of my faves. It's coming. It's coming. See? There it is. Oh, thank you. People get in trouble putting that up. There, if you want to hear it in its entirety or some part that we'll end up putting there.
Right. Happy birthday, Mary.
Well, thank you very much.
All right. So that comes to the end of our first show or first segment, or
Yeah,
what do you guys want to call this?
part
Yeah,
this week's
one?
show. Yep.
Yeah. Part one of the live SMLR.
Yep.
And how do we want to do? We want to do a transition or
We'll just close it out and then
pause for a second? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
For a second.
So when you edit, you can properly find it.
Yeah. So this is you've come to the end of now I'm trying to remember how I said it. So you've been listening to the Sunday Morning Linux Review. This was episode 158.
Cake for breakfast.
Cake for breakfast. Yeah, Mary. Happy birthday, Mary, again.
Thanks.
Happy birthday.
This is Tony Bemis.
Mary Tomich.
And Tom Lawrence.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah. All right. Break.
Break.
And
Oh my God, I've got to do another show.
Sorry.
Whose idea was this anyway? Just kidding. Just kidding. We're going to talk about.
It's been actually this first section was an hour and a half almost. We were hoping to have them shorter. I have two like 45-minute shows.
We had a lot of listener feedback though.
Yeah, we did. So
there was a lot of news topics as it was 3 weeks and things happened.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. All right.
All right.
So here's the beginning of.
This is episode 159.
Yeah, 159. Oh, what's going? I'm trying to hit the X and it's opening an ad instead. Right, there it goes. Soundboard issues.
Ad supported soundboard.
Yeah.
What's
All
the
right.
episode name?
I was thinking it would be called.
What's up?
What's up?
Well, just what's up? Hey, what's up?
Oh,
we're talking blah blah blah. Or you can come up with a better name.
I was thinking the ethics of
Tom,
hacking.
you're creative.
Ethics of hacking.
Oh,
You
okay.
mentioned it earlier. I was just
Yeah.
but
Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. You're right. I don't know what I was thinking of.
I don't know.
I've
Guess I
lost my
wasn't-
mind.
It's all
All
right.
right. All right. So that's what it'll be. All right.
The Sunday Morning Linux Review with Mary Tomich, Tom Lawrence, and Tony Bemis as the Beaver.
And this is episode 159.
Ethical hacking.
Ethics, ethics of hacking.
Oh, the ethics
what
of
is
hacking.
ethic? Yeah.
Ethics.
Ethics.
Um,
That just flowed right off the tongue, didn't it?
that's right. So this is what I guess we could call part 2 of our new format.
Mm-hmm.
And I've
And
got,
you identify yourself,
yeah, this is Tony Bemis.
Mary Tomich.
And Tom Lawrence.
That's right. And this week's episode, unlike what we did the previous week, we're going to launch into a topic and go into depth, talk about it. We'll also use this particular show, not this particular show today, but this our every other week show to go in depth on a certain topic. We'll maybe do a review. We'll do some tool. Tom, you've got a wealth of things,
Yes.
as far as tools and things to talk about. So, and of course, dear listeners, we are interested in hearing from you. Let us know what you like or don't like about it. We definitely want to make sure this works for you too. So,
Yeah, the whole idea behind it was we didn't want to drop off the review section or
Mhm.
or a tips, tool tip kind of thing, but we wanted to shorten the show. So we figured we would still do a 2-week recording session,
mhm.
but then we could take that review / tip or whatever section of it, which we're gonna call fresh looks, would be the review, like our fresh look on whatever the application or the review or the distro.
Mhm.
And then we have tips and tricks would be the other one, or the other would be for the this second part of, or second
Yeah.
section
So,
of the, yeah.
so as soon as we work out, we just work out a few little things here just to um, make it. I think make it probably a little easier transition for all of us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so this is the first time going through the 2-week or 2-section, what do we want to call that,
2-part.
2-part format. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
SMLR 2.0 format.
That's right.
that's right. So when we record, it's a 2-part format. We record our news and then we record our in-depth review, our fresh looks, and then for publication we split it. We 1 week we'll play um, our news one, and then our fresh looks or in-depth will play the following week. So that's it. So what are we
Yeah.
talking about this episode?
So
Fresh
this-
looks.
so this
What are we
episode,
taking a fresh look at, Tony
we're
and
gonna-
Tom?
the ethics of hacking.
Is that an oxymoron?
Well,
No,
that's
for
what.
some people that is an oxymoron because they have that view of the word hacking is bad,
Right.
and so the word ethics, of course, and hacking in the same sentence doesn't work for them.
Exactly. And I think we should make a distinction that there's a difference between something that's ethical and something that's legal. And
Oh, that's a good.
typically you follow what's legal is what's ethical, but that's not always true.
Yeah, there's a lot of gray areas in there.
Mhm.
Right. And also I wanted to make a distinction that we're talking about hacking as in like a hacker cracker kind of things where you're hacking in or exploiting systems, not like the hacker that like making new things out of something like a
And-
maker.
Yeah, and mostly we're phrasing those people more as makers. So
Yeah.
Oh,
it seems-
makers.
It seems like they still call them hacker spaces, like I3 Detroit or some of the other local ones that we have here. But those are really maker spaces.
Mhm.
But you are doing the same thing, but because of the hacker name going bad, so to speak, and they right away assume you're doing something wrong. We got to prosecute you for being a hacker. Calling it a hacker space just would raise law enforcement going, wait a minute, what are those guys doing in there? So calling them maker spaces
They're
is more
hacking.
friendly. They're hacking things, which is what
Exactly.
you're doing. You're taking
Yeah.
them apart and coming up with repurpose new ideas or modifications to it. But yeah, we're talking more about the privilege escalation, or we can get right into things like the GPAC.
Or
know,
like Ashley Madison, that's hacking that site. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that type of thing.
someone. Yeah.
Right. Is it ethical that you're hacking somebody's system even though that system is doing unethical things?
Right.
Ooh, yeah.
I would propose that it's still unethical to hack somebody's system, because if you come down to the base of it, it's a service, that's being
So a
done, but
website for cheaters.
that's unethical. But I would also say hacking it is unethical.
So any hacking done by anonymous, in your opinion, is unethical.
Um,
It depends what they're exploiting. The anonymous exploits with the government contractor that was doing some illegal stuff that happened a few years ago. It reads like something out of a spy novel.
Hmm.
And they thought they were getting closer to being on the inside of Anonymous's group, and it turns out they brought that contractor in to own them and make fun of them,
Hmm.
and included, if you've read it, I'm trying to remember the contractor's name. This is about 3 years ago. Not only did they own them, they locked out their own databases, destroyed their backups, and said the only way we'll give you the encryption key to your own backups and your own system is if you completely release this guy, this guy, this guy.
oh wow.
And they were just, and this is a contractor that's responsible for securing a lot of our government databases.
Mm.
Um,
Hmm.
so there's a lot of
Good to know we've outsourced that.
yeah, and we've done an absolutely poor job, as we know from the
Mhm.
different exploits that we've had with the government. Just the most recent one with the personnel databases.
Yeah.
They clearly haven't learned their lesson.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
Um, yeah. So
It's a whole topic.
exactly. Yeah, I know this is a really big topic, and we thought we'd just spend I don't know, 20 minutes or something talking about it.
Hmm.
And really, what we were discussing this in my class, and that's why I thought it'd be a good thing to bring up. It's something that
Well,
was
what was the take? I mean, just as far
well,
as perspectives from this class discussion.
right. As far as like an academic view
Mhm.
on it, it's just like what I was saying, is that in the basis, anything that is somebody else's system, unless you have explicit permission to hack it or do
Mhm.
vulnerability scans, then it's unethical,
Okay.
or well, it's illegal, and so it really falls along the lines of being unethical.
Yeah.
But then you go back to my first statement, is that not everything that's legal or illegal is unethical or
Mhm.
ethical. um
And you have
so
Snowden,
right, exactly,
and I
that's
imagine he was a class topic. I'm sure.
yeah, he definitely came up. um and that it was illegal, and but it brought a lot of information forward that um,
Well, this is my take on Snowden. What Snowden did was illegal. There's no question. He broke the law. That's not in question. He took an oath not to reveal the system. That's clear. He then violated that oath by revealing all of this.
Mhm.
But we have a legal system that works on precedents. So, in concept, is it illegal to kill someone? The answer, of course, yes. What if you killed them and their intention was to kill you, and you did it in self defense? That's when things are taken into context. He did this with an intention to reveal wrongdoings that our government was doing that were also illegal. So once you put it in context, you would have a trial for him, and the trial would say you broke the law, but you broke the law for this reason. So we then deem it ethical because of public opinion that forces all this, and you're going to set precedents because of the reasons behind what was done. So it makes it very interesting. But then you get into all the gray areas of uh, exposure, for example, Rupert Murdoch and his hacking of phones and things like that.
right.
And then that gets turned over. So now someone was watching him do something illegal and turned it over, but he had to do it by getting inside and infiltrating their network to expose what was going on. So they did something illegal to expose something else that's illegal. So now you get this back into the gray area mess of should that person have done that, but we wouldn't have known that these illegal things were being done by this company if internal documents weren't exposed.
Yeah.
So it is a very everything is on a case by case basis. I see with it,
Mhm.
but it does worry me a lot when you have the head of the FBI saying we don't want encryption anymore on phones. We want backdoor keys to everything, and that's that's not, it doesn't math. You know, you can't make something cryptographically secure and also have a second set of keys that you leave with the government that anytime they want, they can unlock anything on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
That's just,
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the biggest problem with that is, like you said, is math. Is that somebody you leave that key somewhere, even if the government, even if it's somebody you trust, some they're going to get hacked, and then the people you don't trust is going to get
right.
those keys. So it's just there's no secure way to make a back door
No,
um, for a third party, like the government.
that's pretty true. And that's why they want to, the FCC and some of the proposed laws, I don't think they'll pass. They are just proposed, but they're creating an important issue here of they're banning or want to ban the things like DDWRT and modification of routers. So once they get into some of that, now you're doing further restrictions that should it be illegal that I crack my phone? I have a vulnerability on my phone right now that's unpatched from the manufacturer. There is a patch available for this, but I
Mhm.
have to illegally break my phone in order to get a security update. So did I
Right.
break the law when I root my phone to load a security patch because I have a hole in the security on my phone?
Well, you might have broken the EULA or the whatever, that.
Oh, they want to make it specifically illegal under the Digital and Copyright Act to say that it's illegal to root your phone.
Well, then I think
See,
you would have some recourse via the courts to say
Yes.
that, yeah, that my phone was vulnerable and they meaning the phone company did not exercise due diligence in
In
and
securing
pushing out these patches in an appropriate fashion time wise.
right, and I disagree that, well, the biggest thing I disagree with that is that how they tie a software to a piece of hardware and saying you can't hack or you can't change the software on this hardware
Right.
But you
because
own
of
it,
the yeah, even though you own the hardware,
Right.
you
but you're
can't
only
change that.
licensing. See, here I think isn't it true though that you own the hardware, but you're licensing the software on it, so you
Even
don't quote unquote own the software.
right, even if
I
that's
mean,
true, you should
according to
be
what
able to
their license.
you should be allowed to change the software that's on the hardware or that's on the hardware then. So to remove that software if you don't
Mhm.
want to license it anymore.
Mhm.
Right.
And that's my point. So I think it's unethical to say that it's illegal to change the software. Um, and not only we're talking about phones at the moment, but in the thing in the news recently was this.
John Deere tractor.
Yeah, exactly.
They
Yeah.
hacked it.
Well, that's the problem. They can't hack it because it'll void any type of warranties and things like that. But this farmer simply said, "I had a minor problem. I am unable to fix it because they won't let me unlock the software that controls the tractor engine." So he's having a minor problem, which was turned out to be a little sensor that had gone bad. But it cost
Oh.
him 2 days of work waiting on the John Deere guys, who are the only people allowed to touch it or even see the diagnostics. The diagnostic just tells him you can't start this tractor. He doesn't know why, other than he has to wait for John Deere. And they said, "Why don't you bypass it?" And they said they threatened to prosecute and void warranties if I try to access the software on my tractor that's that tells it what's wrong.
That reminds me, and I don't want to digress from this topic, but that reminds me of Monsanto suing farmers whose fields contained some of the seeds that were genetically modified by Monsanto that
Mhm.
others had purchased, but these farmers didn't. But the seed, you know how that
It
stuff,
drifts.
yeah, it drifts,
Yeah.
and it ends up in their fields, and then they're going to sue them or they're going to give them a hard time. It's annoying, but back to the
Right.
well, I think the farmer should have he shouldn't have gotten a smart tractor. There,
Yeah. I
there's a point at which we're really creating the mechanism for our own enslavement. And I realize I really probably jumped the shark there, um, but
no, I wouldn't say you jumped shark, and it's actually interesting. That was a big point of the last Mr. Robot.
mhm.
Uh, was that we've created our own problem,
Yes.
Mhm.
and I don't want to give away anything in the show, but it's interesting you bring that up when you haven't seen it, but no, I agree, and
I read some
that's
articles about it. Just as we continue to have these advances in robotics, and it's interesting. You think about, and I may be getting a little off topic here, but you think about the our economic recovery over the from 2008's Great Recession, and it's been somewhat tepid. I mean, yes, we have recovered. Uh, Wages aren't quite recovering as quickly as we'd like. I mean, we and that type of thing. But part of it is due to increased technology, robotics replacing some of the people that did some of these jobs. And in China, you wait and see in the next probably 10 to 15 years, all of the old skilled level labor, if it's replaced by technology, what are they going to do with all those people?
Well, there's a there's a whole nother topic we can go on there, but
I know.
throughout
I
we
take
have
responsibility for driving this buggy off the
yeah,
road.
but we have, and this is
Hmm.
I can send you the links. I can probably find it and we'll add it to the show notes about what happens with innovation and what happens to the people. And there's a lot of great history
Hmm.
within that, and it's driving the efficiency of the human race. But those people do not come displaced; they still become the people who service it. They still become that because there's not this
Hmm.
instant doing that. Because think about it, especially here in America. Years ago, we had lots of people picking cotton. Now we
Mm.
don't. We have
Hmm.
machines that do it. And this is back to the farm automation.
Sure.
These are massive automated machines that pretty much the only reason there's a guy sitting in a tractor is to see if something beeps. Other than that, I'm sure he's playing on Facebook and maybe he's playing Farm Bill.
Make sure you.
Well, in the Atlantic magazine, Atlantic Monthly, they had an article about the end of work.
Yes. And we could, I
You know,
see our
but-
future more of a Star Trek style happy place to be.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
I really see that. And there's a lot of, I just finished Stephen Pinker's book, which is The Better Angels of Our Nature. Absolutely amazing book about,
You had time to read?
I find time to read. It's 900 pages. It's an
Did you
intense
spread
book.
it though?
Yes. It's the only way you can get through 900 pages.
In a day?
Wow.
But it's really intense, but it shows a lot of human progress and things like
Mhm.
that. But a lot of ethics come in there. But there's also the fact that we're not as, we seem to have really busy lives, but we're busy doing a lot of less manual things overall as the
Mhm.
human race goes for
Mhm.
any developed nation, I should say.
Yeah.
But because of that, it's moving forward. We're moving forward to a better place where people don't have to work as much, where they don't have to still maintain a really high quality lifestyle. But back to the topic of the ethics and hacking,
Right.
Mhm.
the the issue we're facing though is each time is a lot of it's copyright. I'm a huge fan. I've read pretty much every book Cory Doctorow's ever published on it. His books that when any time he gets on the copyright topic, it's always a problem, whether it's copyright, Digital and Copyright Act, your inability to take apart or modify devices. Um, we're seeing too much of that, and it's ways of governments enforcing controls, and then it comes like you said in ethics. Well, if they're enforcing a control on something just to lock me out of it, why? When you see places like we talked about in the last show,
Mhm.
Germany embracing the more open source in the software world, because that's the software world becomes a very easy place to understand this. And when
Mhm.
you see the governments embracing it and showing that it works, it's just a matter of time before that kind of catches on when we see a good thing happening. As I know, France, also like much like Germany, has been moving to a lot of open source platforms.
Mhm.
It's been really looked hard at in the UK due to Microsoft's Office licensing and problems
Sure.
with interface stability. It was a good article. One of the pushes to switch is because they're going, Microsoft just moved everything. And then I have all these users that became inefficient because they don't know how to use the product because the new update, because there's no competition. Microsoft's going, what are you going to do about it? This is what the new version looks like.
Well, I think that their move to open source, because it's really happening a lot more there than it is here. It's just simply to a kind of a pushback of these American companies that I mean, Google. I know Google has spent some time in the European courts
Yes.
with various copyright issues and various antitrust issues, that type of thing.
Yes, and
So,
and what you've got is outside the U.S., you've got a major distrust in American closed source products.
mhm.
Um, I had a weird email, so I have my videos I do on PF Sense,
Mhm.
and I got an email from the Ministry of Health of Tangu. I'm not sure how to say it. It's right by Fiji, and they're
I
don't
think we
want
need to make a field trip.
I well, it started with him asking if I could do a presentation, and I said, "You buying? I mean, I've never been to this place." And we went back and forth, and he did not offer a flight. He just needed some information.
Okay.
But what I did was I went back and forth with them in several emails. They really like my presentation, but that's what they're worried about is using some of the closed source products
Mhm.
to run even there on your small island nation. Going, we're not trusting some of this. We really want something solid and secure.
Yeah.
So we're looking at open source firewalls, going, you know what? We trust it. We say we know there's no backdoor NSA stuff in there. And
Mhm.
if you remember a few years ago, and this wasn't Cisco's fault, but it did cause a lot of brand trust issues about the false Cisco routers with fake firmware on them.
Oh.
They were for sale on eBay.
Yeah,
And
I think
what
I
they
remember
had
that.
was a fake firmware on there from some Chinese manufacturer that offered backdoors and things like that. It was,
Chinese. Oh,
yeah. Well, and you would buy these on eBay and you go, oh, cool, brand new Cisco routers in the box for half the price I can buy them from Cisco. Let me buy these. So you have these problems. We've also had the problem of the router firmware. It scares me if they tell us not to lock it. We had a couple incidents where with router firmware, we would turn off things like UPnP and it would
Mhm.
still be on, even though you'd untick the box and hit save and it would still be on. And that's how they found some of these vulnerabilities. But if I'm not allowed to look for my vulnerabilities, if I'm not
Mhm.
allowed to look on my phone for them, well, then
Right.
we have a whole nother problem. So, am I committing an illegal act by looking on my phone to see if it's got an exploit on there? Because the hackers aren't concerned with that law.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But definitely, I like the move to open source. That's how I think this ties in the whole thing. Giving some eyes on it. The Mycroft project we talked about last time. When we look at an open source voice interaction for Internet of Things, we look at something that's easily viewed. We know what's going on and what's there. And I like conveniences. I do use Google a lot, but I'm aware what I'm sending them. When I say, okay, Google, navigate me home, I do know that I am aware that Google knows where I live.
Hmm.
I'm fine with that because I'm aware of it. It's when they do the shady things that I get worried. So that's why I love the open source movement to some of these where we have visibility and we understand what's going on.
Right.
And when security updates come, we understand what it is.
Hmm. So the other part of our discussion in class was he gave a couple scenarios and said, is this an ethical thing or an unethical? Actually, he called it, is this a Jedi or a Sith
Yeah,
actions?
I like the reference.
Yeah. So it was interesting. But he gave suggestions, or one scenario was like somebody hacking the school grading system so he could see other grades and change his own. And everybody's, oh yeah, that's Sith, that's something bad to do. But another one which was interesting, which really there's a lot of discussion about, was say somebody's kid was kidnapped,
Mhm.
and the parents came to you, the parents and the local police came to you and says, we need to get into their Google, their Gmail email to see, were they meeting somebody, was there threats, we need to get in there, can you hack their account? And at that point, it's illegal. Yes, it's illegal because you're breaking into somebody else's account that's on a Google server. um, but is it ethical or unethical? Because you want to
You
help.
need the clues. You need the information that's in there because
Well,
it
you
may.
just go to Google and they would do it.
Right, yeah, and in
Well,
the proper way,
Yeah.
or the best way would
Let's
be
say
to
you
have.
couldn't. Yeah, would you?
Yeah, there's the police or FBI would need to be able to contact Google and get that info.
Well, this is
But
the same conundrum of, okay, you're in a store and you have a starving child at home. Do you steal food for your child, kind of thing? I mean,
Yeah.
it's the sort of same
Comes back to
moral
context for each
framework.
one.
Whether Mhm.
right, yeah, exactly. So that's where we went back and forth, and it's illegal. But we said, yeah, it would be ethical because you need to, if this saves the person. But
Sure.
it also comes down to the context. Is the child an adult or a minor? Is
Mhm.
going back and forth like that, and everybody agreed that if it's a minor, then the parent should have access to their kids' accounts. So if something happened, they didn't have access, and you can get them in, then that would be an ethical thing to do. Um, if the child is an adult, then maybe they have private things on there, and it wouldn't be as clear of a ethical thing.
Mhm.
But again, you want to save the person or help.
Right.
So
Yeah. It's really it can be a really fuzzy topic. But I see overall, and we can go back right to the Jeep exploit. Was it ethical for these guys to go looking for a hole in the Jeep's security that allowed them to shut down the engine? But of course, if they wouldn't have done it, what would have happened if there was a planned attack, so to speak? And we're going to turn off every Jeep from this model year because we can, and every Chrysler product using this insecure system. And they did a massive staged attack. So if these guys wouldn't have done it, and a hacker chooses to do it, so their little ethics violation, and of course showmanship by doing it to a vehicle on the freeway, which everyone really poo-pooed them, going, "That's dangerous. You did it." And they go, "We did it to prove the point. We wanted some shock value. We wanted you to watch the news. We wanted to get people talking about this because these car companies need to be." I don't want to use the word taught a lesson, but in a way, they really need to, in the most public way possible, be embarrassed by this.
Right.
It's the only way you're going to get them to start thinking about security, because a staged attack where they shut down a massive amount of cars, or if this would have never been noticed and they just kept letting it go there, and the one bad guy goes, "All right, I'm selling a secret to the highest bidder," and that person then can hit a switch that shuts down cars and creates a big traffic jam everywhere, or wrecks these cars, or whatever occurs. You create chaos because we wouldn't have known about it. We would have said, "Okay, we realize it's affecting Jeeps. How many other cars can it affect?" You throw people's confidence, you throw chaos around, you make kind of a mess of it. And this was actually, when they did this, they quickly patched it. They did work with them. And Uber hired the guy, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So they got a job out of it too.
That's
Not
good.
bad, not bad.
Yeah. So the ethical part was that they were able to scan and find the vulnerability, and they didn't just release it to the public. They
Right.
went back to look, to the manufacturer to look
Yes.
for a patch or have them patch it.
Yep, they did proof of concept. They worked directly with the manufacturer on it. And they even did some short-term things, like did some port blocking and stuff like that, so no one could access it. Which I guess because they did the port blocking, that's also why they couldn't update the firmware over the air. So that was the part I was confused about. How do you not? If these guys can update the firmware, why can't Chrysler? Well, apparently by the instant they found out about it, they locked down the port on the devices, the cellular devices in all the vehicles. So no one could send any data, not Chrysler, not anyone.
Oh, okay.
So because of that, because it's also was all done in clear text, that was the immediate mitigation. Put the Band-Aid on it now, keep it from happening, and then bring the cars in and we'll do firmware updates.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, do a little more reading on accessories.
Yeah. All right. Very cool. I don't know. I was thinking that's all the kind of topics I had. Do you have more to add, or
Unethical hacking?
yeah, the ethics or
Well, I was kind of curious. And I'm going to just bring up that Ashley Madison site. Not because there's an ethical hack here, but I look at my reaction to it. Because that site was set up for people who, whether you're married or not, you want to have an affair, and of course, a lot of married people signed up for it, and they're really breaking that marriage vow if they're going to have an affair. If they did, they could have just signed up out of curiosity. So the site gets hacked, and strangely enough, I found myself not really ticked off that a site got hacked by hackers, because I think it's because it was that site.
Yes, when Evil Corp gets hacked.
Where a site that like the government personnel database
Right.
got hacked. That was, I thought that was terrible, because there are a lot of people who are employees whose information might have been
Yes.
compromised.
But they also the Ashley Madison database, don't like them as a company, but I see it as illegal. But they do things like this, and the government does this as well. Like anytime they want to create a new copyright problem, or they want to stick it to people who they deem hackers, what do they call it? Child Protection Act.
Oh,
Because the
yes.
movie industry was clearly so concerned about pedophiles and things like that, they came up with the Child Protection Act. They came up with the CISPA. They came up with all these different ones where they could seize anyone's domain, more related to copyright. But what do? They play in your heartstrings to get rid of what we deem the most terrible people, the pedophiles. That's really what this is targeted at. And you are for pedophiles if you don't vote for this piece of legislation. They do try to play that on there. So that's sometimes where they try to play with your ethics in your head, because you're going, I really hate those people. Or with Ashley Madison, they are a wrong, and morally people as a majority don't like it. And then when you find out they had 43 million people on there, you get that much angrier. You get a little less angry after the analysis on it. Did you read any of the analysis on it?
I did not read any in-depth articles about
yeah, I
it.
didn't.
Well,
Either.
it turns out that most of those people were
Men.
Men.
Yes, I saw that.
Not just men talking to bots. they were finding the same IP address for all the women that were in the list, which means they were being controlled internally by Ashley Madison's messaging team.
Really?
So they were having all kinds of conversations and affairs with
Robots.
With
See, the robots are
robots.
taking us over.
robots are
Oh,
taking
that
over.
is.
Wow,
No, I
that's
know.
funny.
Yes.
I had heard that most of the accounts were men, which is not surprising, just
Right.
given how we're hardwired. But I didn't know the part about the.
Yeah, and they were looking at the login histories because
Uh-huh.
they had IP address logins
Sure.
on there, and apparently a lot of it was internally. A lot of the female names were all logged in by one IP address, which of course was internal to Ashley Madison.
Mhm.
So they had at least their own internal females doing a lot of that. Now this goes a little bit off the rails. If I understood some of this, they had even hired escorts. They had hired women and things like that to help facilitate this. Because it is a pay site, they had to do something, and someone had to get something
Right.
Yeah,
to
of
keep the site-
value.
of value to get the site going. So, but it goes deep in there. But you come back to, ethics of all of it. Was it
Mhm.
ethical? And this goes back to let's talk about a less controversial company. Let's talk about Sony,
Okay.
who pretty much got owned top to bottom in December of 2014, turned into a giant fiasco.
Oh yes.
Yes, and
Yeah.
we revealed, unfortunately, the news reported on a lot of this, and this shouldn't have been public information. Sony's personal emails, which had pay information and
Yeah.
things like that. But you can be mad about what they found. Sony's security was Swiss cheese, is why it happened. But you have to stop and look at the ethics of it. It's the same thing with like when celebrities get their photos leaked online of themselves that they didn't want leaked online. You shouldn't look at them. It's unethical, and these sites just eat it up. And the
Yeah.
same thing with Sony. It should not have been public record. Sony, as it turns out, it was doing some poor business practices internally, and it caused a lot of controversy for them with movies
Mhm.
and things like that. But it shouldn't have been public information. So even though you can't justify it later and say, well, look what we found about Sony. No, Sony shouldn't have been hacked. Their security shouldn't have been Swiss cheese either. But
Right.
Yeah.
they had everything insecure. There should be just like a good write up of what not to do and like everything that happened.
Case study.
They actually should make a really good case study for class. One of my friends
Yeah.
was one of the Cisco guys that helped fix some of it, and his stories were funny. If they could have configured it wrong or not patched it, they configured it wrong and didn't patch it.
Wow. Yeah,
It's-
that's pretty bad.
Yeah, it was top to bottom bad. So it comes back to the less ethical part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think it really it's food for thought. As far as what's ethical, what's not ethical, and there's a little bit of personal. You think about each one of us has. I think we probably have a great amount of overlap as far as what's ethical, what's not
Yeah.
ethical, and then based on our own personal perceptions,
Yes.
there are probably some other little things that hey, that would be ethical for me, but for you it is ethical, and vice versa.
And that's where everything has like come back to the
great.
very first
Yeah.
thing I said. You can absolutely, we'd all agree it's illegal to kill someone. It's wrong.
Mhm.
But when you look at the context of it,
Mass
different
murder,
exceptions.
killing, mass
Yeah.
murder. Yeah. So someone's being paged.
the kids
Yeah.
are awake.
I'm thinking this is a good time to wrap
it
up.
Wrap up.
Yeah. So yeah, let us know what you guys think about this topic. I know it's a big topic,
Yeah.
but we
It is.
definitely welcome other people's opinions, and you can give us a call on our hotline or our voicemail.
And talk to Tony directly.
Yeah,
Yes.
or talk to me directly.
Tony
Right.
might even answer the phone.
It's 734
Tony.
258 7009.
He, for those of you who are only listening, he was making the motions.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
to
'Cause
do it on the
sometimes-
number
Making the
pad.
hand motions. Of
But
the
I know
phone.
what you mean. You get kind of that motion, and you can type it out, but to have to figure out what the numbers are, it
Yeah.
takes a little bit.
Exactly.
I've done that too.
Oh, I do that with my bank account. I had to give my bank account to my tax guy the other day, and I'm like, I can't tell you it. I had to write it down and then read that to him because I'm used to writing it out.
Yeah, that's funny.
But
All right.
all right,
Well,
yeah. So you've been listening to the Sunday Morning Linux Review,
Yep.
part 2.
yep, fresh look at ethical hacking
That's right.
episode.
Episode 159.
That's right.
This is Tony Bemis.
Mary Tomich.
And Tom Lawrence.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah. All right.
Okay,
I think that's good.
Do we have an
I think
outro?
so. Do
Oh
have
yeah,
some
we have
music?
an outro music. All right, hold on.
You've been listening to the Sunday Morning Linux Review. If you would like more information about this or other shows, go to smlr.us. Feel free to send comments to show at smlr.us or give us a call at 734-258-7009. I'm John Miller. If you don't like it, you can
Fight my 8-bit metal ass. That's bite with a Y.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Like,
Bye, YouTubers.
Yeah, bye. Anyone who happened to be out there.
We have 2 people on right now.
Oh, okay.
Yay.
And not counting us.
Oh, 1 now. The other person left.
Okay.
goodbye. So.
Yeah. Goodbye.
All right.
That person came back. That's fun. Anyway.
All right.
Now I'm hitting stop broadcast.